right?
Yeah, just like everything else.
But in this situation, in this story, mother's love has no boundaries.
Absolutely.
And no limits, right? It's such a heartwarming,
Great news.
also great news and positive news here. Now to our next update, the Bengkalis Police Narcotics Unit recently prevented drugs from being smuggled to Indonesia through the Malacca Strait.
The drug smugglers led police on an offshore chase and prompted authorities to fire a few warning shots.
The police detained 4 suspects linked with an international drug syndicate and seized 5 kilograms of methamphetamine.
The drug smugglers attempted to flee when they were found by the Bengkalis Police Narcotics Unit at the Bantan Subdistrict in Riau. The police hotly pursued the suspects and fired several warning shots.
Authorities ended up detaining 2 suspects and 5 kilograms of methamphetamine as evidence. Following further investigation, the police arrested 2 other suspects who were set to bring the drugs from Malaysia to a drug dealer in Pekanbaru.
The 4 suspects are now being held at the Bengkalis Police Headquarters and have all been charged with anti-narcotics law, which may land them the death penalty.
Telah mendapatkan informasi tentang adanya narkoba yang masuk dari negeri seberang, masuk melalui Selat Bengkalis, dan kemudian informasi itu ditindaklanjuti oleh tim gabungan dengan membagi tim, ada yang ada di standby di daratan dan di perairan. Tentunya itu kenapa kita perlu tim gabungan, ada juga dari Polair dan dari Bea Cukai, karena jalur peredarannya masih menggunakan jalur peredaran laut. Dan terhadap pengungkapan kasus ini, penyidik telah melakukan penangkapan terhadap 4 orang tersangka dengan barang bukti sabu jumlah kurang lebih 5 kg. Termasuk juga penangkapannya adalah di 2 lokasi, di lokasi daratan dan ditambahkan dengan lokasi yang di perairan, yaitu di atas speedboat dengan 1 speedboat yang diamankan, betul ya. Nah, tentunya kami dari aparat penegak hukum bergabung dengan instansi vertikal terkait lainnya, dalam hal ini adalah Bea Cukai, terus berkomitmen dalam hal pemberantasan kasus narkoba ini. Kita tahu bahwa negara kita merupakan daerah kita merupakan salah satu jalur peredaran masuknya narkoba dari seberang. Tentunya penguatan koordinasi dan kolaborasi berbagai pihak itu penting untuk dilakukan untuk memperkuat sinergitas dalam hal pengungkapan kasus narkoba ini.
I think the past year of 2023 and also this early year, we've always, almost every week that we bring a narcotic update, especially right here from Indonesia. In regard to that, Badan Narkotika Nasional, or known as National Narcotics Agency, said North Sumatra especially is the 3rd most vulnerable province in Indonesia when it comes to drug trafficking and related crimes. Now, about 80% of illicit drugs reaching North Sumatra are smuggled by sea. And regarding the number of drug users in Indonesia, there's a joint survey that was conducted by the National Narcotics Agency and the Indonesian Institute of Sciences. In 2019, it pegged the number of drug users in Indonesia at over 3.4 million users. Now, this survey conducted in 34 provinces indicated that about 180 out of 10,000 Indonesian in the age of group from 15 to 64 years old were addicted to drugs. And the users, whether that's marijuana, narcotics, crystal methamphetamine, and the type of addictive drugs, belong to any community, socioeconomics, and also cultural backgrounds. Now, there is a repeated that domestic and transactional drug dealers consider that Indonesia to be a potential market because due to the vast population and widespread drug use.
It's been around for a long time, and
That's
it's
right.
only getting bigger.
Yeah. All right, moving on to our next story. The Aceh Regional Police have foiled the attempted smuggling of dried Sumatran tiger skin in West Aceh Regency, Aceh Province.
One of the suspects was reportedly working as a government officer.
Authorities have also detained 2 suspects and seized the skin along with several bones of the protected animal.
The police began their investigation after receiving information from locals that Sumatran tiger skin was traded in the region. They then arrested 1 suspect who reportedly works as a civil servant at the Serbe Jadi district office and another who works as a farmer.
Both suspects admitted that this was the first time for them to sell this particular type of contraband, which they had obtained from the illegal poachers. According to a vet at the Aceh Regional Conservation Agency, the male tiger was approximately 12 years old. There are currently approximately 300 Sumatran tigers remaining, and their population continues to decline due to illegal poachers.
Kita sudah lakukan penyelidikan di awal tanggal 11 Januari Kemudian kita lakukan pendalaman dan akhirnya pada tanggal 19 Januari itu bisa kita ungkap. Kita tangkap 2 tersangka tadi. Saat ini pihak dari Ditreskrim Suspolda Aceh melakukan profiling dan pendalaman terhadap jaringan dan panjangnya 2,6 meter dan kemudian cara melakukan mereka dengan lakukan penjeratan. Bisa dilihat tadi di tangan kanan kaki kanannya itu terdapat bekas jeratan dan kemudian ya kaki tangan depan jerat, kemudian kaki belakang kanan itu terdapat bekas suntikan. Kemungkinan kita dalami sebagai perantara. Jadi dia yang menghubungkan dengan masyarakat pencari yang memang berburu menangkap satwa liar ini, yang kemudian dia yang bertugas untuk mencarikan pembeli.
I'd like to expand on this a little bit, and this is actually, I've only recently been thinking about this as well. Late last year, I was speaking to, are you guys familiar with the Indonesian rapper Tuan 13? His nickname is actually Harimau Sumatera, which is a Sumatran tiger. He initially took on that nickname because he said, I needed something that was fierce, that was strong. And then he said, as I looked into it more, I realized that they're not fierce and strong. In fact, they're very weak, and they're victimized a lot because of these poachers. Now, the good news is that a 2015 Forest Ministry survey had found that there were approximately 200 tigers that remain in the provinces of North Sumatra and Aceh alone. We reported that it's approximately 300. That's because due to conservation efforts and those that were trying to preserve these beautiful animals and the wildlife has actually grown their numbers. But these sorts of poachers, the bad news, still really exists. And there's been a recent incident just 2 years ago. A mother and a tiger, I think we reported on it, were caught in the snare. And those snares were put out for this particular purpose as well. Now, if you are caught poaching any sort of this contraband, you face a maximum sentence of 5 years in prison, a fine of 100 million rupiah under the 1990 conservation law. And, you know, unfortunately, in many countries, not just in Indonesia, this is not legal, but I believe everywhere this is highly, highly immoral. But there is still a market for this. There are still very rich people out there that would like to have these tiger mats into their homes. And although it's not only immoral, but many people have frowned upon these sorts of incidents. As you can see, there is still a market, and he's really trying to crack down on it. It's very unfortunate that an actual government official is involved in this particular case.
Minimal consequences too, right? If you think about
I would
the
say
100
so.
million rupiah.
I would say so, because these things cost like a lot of money, and you know, some people are just willing to take a loss if they can sell more of them, right?
And it's very sad because I think in addition to heavy rules and regulations, I think the government needs to have more education towards these poachers that it is actually an inhuman thing to do. And in addition to giving education on moral, I think the government should also think about how to actually grow the economy of the people around there so that they don't have
to resort.
resort to that poaching activity.
Absolutely. All right, from Indonesia, we're now going to head over to the United States for another one of our headlines earlier, where fire ravaged a house in northern Indiana and has taken the lives of 5 children, leaving another burned on Monday.
According to South Bend Fire Department, the flames trapped several individuals, including children, on the second floor of the structure on Sunday evening.
A house fire in South Bend, Indiana, killed 5 children, including one who was 17-month-old. Emergency crew responded to a residential fire at 222 North Laporte Avenue at approximately 6:15 p.m. local time on Sunday. Upon arriving, they found several victims trapped by the blaze on the second floor of the building.
7 individuals in total, consisting of 1 adult and 6 children, were inside the house when the blaze took place. Officials said 5 of these 6 children died, although they were all successfully taken from the burning building. The victims ranged anywhere from 17 months to 11 years old.
The remaining survivor was rushed to a local hospital and later airlifted to a specialized pediatric burn center in Indianapolis for further treatment. 1 adult escaped with minor injuries, while 1 firefighter was injured after falling through the second floor. South Bend firefighters fought for around 3 hours, before successfully extinguishing the blaze. As of current, authorities are now investigating the cause of the fire.
know that the children age ranged from 17 months to 11 years old, and the 11-year-old was the one that was flown to Indianapolis. Continuing their efforts amidst overwhelming heat and smoke, the firefighters from Engine 2 located and rescued 2 individuals, handing them over to additional crews upon their arrival. In total, 6 victims were extracted from the fire. Tragically, 5 of these individuals, all children, would later be pronounced deceased. 1 survivor was urgently transported to Memorial Hospital and later airlifted to a specialized pediatric burn center in Indianapolis for further treatment.
All right, folks, those were our updates in our first segment. We're taking our first short break of the day, but when we return, we have news from around Indonesia. Stay tuned right here on the C Morning Show. We'll be right back.
Their existence is now being critically endangered.
Dia memiliki ekor yang sangat panjang, jauh lebih panjang daripada badannya sendiri.
Tekniknya dia keluar itu bergelombol, menggunakan punggung temannya untuk naik.
Sebenarnya konservasi burung hantu di sini latar belakangnya jelas asas manfaat. Jadi kita pengen melestarikan burung, melestarikan satwa, tapi juga otomatis dampaknya ke masyarakat yang khususnya sekarang kalau di sini kan petani.
Oh, I love this atmosphere. Woo! Heading to Gili Trawangan. And this special episode, I already prepared myself for an adventure on the island, which in the top of the list to visit. And this is the travel note because life is dope.
Welcome back to Spotlight, ladies and gentlemen, where we bring you guys some of the sports that you guys can go play here in Indonesia.
Handball karena masih baru, tadi kita bisa juga mempopulerkan ini kepada masyarakat sampai ke bawah.
We do it from scratch at the time because we don't know ice hockey, how to play, how to develop, how to manage this sport.
You don't have to be good with your foot. Like, you can just dribble the ball and just throw it to the full ball.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Flavors is gaining more popularity around the world in the last decade. Personally love this, not just because it is familiar for our palate, but because the airiness, the textures of the youtiao, it's completely different when baguette. So with those appetites and with those pleasure-driven people, Menteng is a very special place for restaurant.
A group of volunteers operating in the south of the city has united to assist displaced children in a refugee camp in Rafah in overcoming the trauma of war. The volunteers come from diverse professional backgrounds and share expertise in working with young people.
Ke Binjai mau migrasi.
Cakep.
Anjay, aku depotsi.
Ya, aku cuma mau bilang hari ini kamu tuh cantik loh.
Aduh ya Allah.
Oke lah kalau penampilan dia nggak sebaik itu, nggak sebagus itu, nggak seganteng itu, tapi itu hatinya dia sebaik itu dan tidak ada orang yang pernah gue temuin hatinya sebaik Mars.
Pemain.
All right, welcome back to the C Morning Show. We've got more updates out of Indonesia as hundreds of residents suffered mass poisoning from paper factory waste in Karawang, West Java. They were rushed to the hospital for medical treatment, while several others were evacuated to the village office.
Meanwhile, strong odor from a chemical plant allegedly polluted the air in Cilegon, Banten. This caused several schools to dismiss their students as they suffer shortness of breathing and vomiting.
Hundreds of residents fell victim to mass poisoning on Saturday night in Kutamuka village, Karawang, West Java. A number of residents first smelled a strong odor from a paper factory waste. Not long after, the odor spread quickly, causing hundreds to collapse. They experienced sore throats, shortness of breath, and even nausea. Hundreds of the victims were sent to 4 hospitals, namely the Rosella, Mandaya, Karawang, and Bayukaya hospitals for medical treatment.
Insya Allah ditanggung sama
perusahaan. Karena nanti saya yang akan langsung masuk ke perusahaan untuk bisa mempertanggungjawabkan
biaya pengobatan
biaya pengobatan. Ya harapan kami jangan sampai terjadi lagi lah. Nanti kami belum bisa berbicara panjang lebar karena kami pun harus berbicara dengan masyarakat. Ya seperti itu.
Empat ya. Ini yang terparah ini.
Ya yang paling terparah karena ini meluap sampai ke desa lain, ke kota negara.
Meanwhile, 3 districts suffered from air pollution such as strong odor from a chemical plant in Cilegon, Banten. Medical staff from Gogol Community Health Center distributed free face masks to residents. This was done with the hope that exposure to the pollution does not affect the health of locals in Cilegon.
Hah?
Kayak mirip-mirip bau bensin.
Gitu?
Udah dipulangin.
Sama sekolah?
Main mengganggu tadi.
Mengganggu?
Iya, makanya semuanya juga dipulangin.
Meanwhile, an official letter from the chemical plant company PT Handra Asri acknowledged the problem, which was caused by faulty equipment, leading to the burning of their gas chimney or flare stack. Therefore, the company apologized to the residents of Cilegon and will repair the equipment. Stay today reporting from Karawang, West Java and Cilegon, Banten.
In other news, Indonesian Army Chief of Staff General Maruli Simanjuntak recently invited several leaders from online, printed and broadcast media to the Indonesian Army headquarters.
This was done in a bid to boost communication and synergy between the Army and the media.
Several media leaders attended the event upon invitation from the Indonesian Army Chief of Staff General Maruli Simanjuntak. The occasion was held at the Indonesian Army headquarters in central Jakarta on Monday afternoon.
The general said that the event was held with the aim of boosting communication and synergy between the Army and the media in terms of media publication.
He also expressed his hope that the meeting can improve communication between both sides in the future.
Ulang tahun Dispenat yang ke-73 kita mengadakan pembelajaran kepada para penerangan Angkatan Darat untuk bagaimana berkomunikasi dengan media. Memang ini ada hal yang sering disampaikan oleh rekan-rekan media, banyak tentara menghindar dan cara berkomunikasinya kurang baik. Mudah-mudahan dengan adanya penyelenggaraan ini bisa jadi lebih baik lagi nanti komunikasi dengan media.
All right, coming up next, we're now going to have a quick look at the latest updates regarding the upcoming Indonesian general elections on Indonesia Votes 2024. All right, we're going to kick things off with presidential candidate number 1, Anies Baswedan, who recently held a grand campaign in Parung Bogor, West Java on Monday afternoon.
During the second day of campaigning, he expressed his confidence that he will garner massive support in West Java.
Anies Baswedan was warmly welcomed by his supporters when he arrived at the Parung Sports Complex in Bogor, West Java on Monday afternoon.
During his speech, he expressed his amazement regarding the high number of supporters who gathered in the area. He also expressed his confidence that he will win the West Java vote.
Muhaimin Iskandar was absent from the event as he went on the campaign trail elsewhere.
Kami menyampaikan rasa hormat kepada semua yang hadir dan membuat kami makin optimis bahwa semangat di grassroots yang luar biasa kuat ini insya Allah akan menular. Dan harapannya nanti seperti disampaikan Ketua TPD Jawa Barat Pak Haru, di Jawa Barat insya Allah kita akan mendapatkan dukungan untuk perubahan yang amat besar.
Pak, tadi sempat dikasih kertas kuning Pak sama penonton di atas panggung. Kertas kuning ini kira-kira kesannya apa ya Pak? Boleh dibacain nggak Pak?
Saya banyak sekali terima. Dari kalau dihitung ini hari ini aja terima mungkin udah sebagian saya kasihin 10 minimal. Jadi sebagian dipegang sama ajudan.
Presidential candidate number 2, Prabowo Subianto, recently attended the U.S. Alumni Association 402 event organized by Erick Thohir.
Prabowo also took the opportunity to thank hundreds of his supporters and express his confidence of winning this year's election.
Hundreds of Prabowo Gibran supporters gathered at Eric Thohir's U.S. Alumni Association for the O2 event after the minister expressed his support.
The event was attended by presidential and VP candidate number 2, Prabowo Subianto and Gibran Rakabuming Raka. It also featured Eric Thohir, Marwar Sirait, Agus Harimurti Yudhoyono, and former Trade Minister Muhammad Lutfi. It was held at Plaza Senayan in central Jakarta on Monday evening. During the occasion, Prabowo Subianto expressed his optimism in winning this year's election in front of his supporters.
Apalagi saudara-saudara alumni Amerika Serikat, kita bisa dikatakan mungkin negara, ya jelas dari segi penduduk, kita adalah keempat terbesar di dunia. Dari luas wilayah kita juga sangat luas. Dari segi berapa segi kita luar biasa. Kekayaan alam kita mengerti semua. Kayaknya karena saya lihat sekarang diundang ke sini banyak pakai baju biru-biru muda, ya mungkin agak optimis aku ini. Tapi saudara-saudara, semua saya kira ada jalannya, semua ada maksudnya. Ya. Jadi saya sangat terima kasih kehormatan ini.
And meanwhile, presidential candidate number 3, Ganjar Pranowo, criticized the poor road condition of Lampung during his visit to the province.
And he added that these poor conditions even caused him to suffer from stomach aches on the way to the Pala sub-district in South Lampung.
Ganjar Pranowo criticized the poor road condition in Lampung while campaigning at the Rodlotus Solihin Islamic Boarding School on Monday afternoon. He said he even suffered from stomachache after traversing the road on the way to the school.
He said that poor road access can be resolved if funds are increased by 300%. He added that it can be achieved by lowering funds meant for facilities used by local officials, and additionally, students at the Islamic boarding school prayed for Ganjar's success.
Mama saya lihat di jalan saya dari sana sampai sini, kenapa nggak bisa ngebut jalannya rusak? Ibu bapak ini aneh, jalan rusak malah tepuk tangan. 2013 saya jadi gubernur, program saya yang pertama saat itu adalah infrastruktur.
Bupati PDI, Pak.
Anggaran kita naikkan 300%. Siapa yang harus hemat? Pemimpinnya yang harus hemat, bukan rakyatnya. Kalau Bapak Ibu mau mobil bagusnya, mahalnya kayak apa, kalau Bapak Ibu jalan itu mau pakai yang harga 6 miliar, mau pakai yang harga 300 juta, 100 juta, 50 juta, kalau pas naik mobil sakit perut ya sama aja tuh. Kalau pakai mobil kebelet tipis di dalam juga sama aja.
Folks, that concludes our local updates right here in this segment. We're taking a step back momentarily. When we return, of course, Papa Lala is set to bring you some sports updates. It's already in the station. So, again, we're Indonesia against Japan. Before, you were telling me that at least we need one draw, but this is a different case.
Yeah, so earlier on, the PSSI and all the Indonesian fans were hoping for just one win, one loss, and one draw.
Right.
So we already had our loss, so hopes were down, but then we got our win. So logically, we would just need that draw in order to increase our chances for the round of 16. However, Japan lost. It was a surprise loss as well.
Right.
So now that they lost, that puts us in a tie with Japan. This is something we never foresaw. So now that we have to face Japan, we have to come out with a win. So we actually need...
So we have to win.
We do, because Japan had scored 4 goals, remember, if you remember, in their previous match. So they have more goals. If we are tied, then they're going to go through because of goal difference. So we need a win in this one. Trying to beat the number 15th or 17th ranked team in the world.
Yes, 17th.
Be a tough hill to climb. But nevertheless, though, that match will take place tomorrow. We're going to cover some of the highlights leading up into the match. We also have some news from the world of tennis, from the Australian Open. We have some basketball updates. Great news for Laker Nation and Caroline Surahmat as a huge win for LeBron and company, as well as mentioned, the 2024 AFC Asian Cup. All that and more when we return here on the C Morning Show. Do stick around. Your morning sports update is coming up next.
beauty and the excitement of being there.
Indescribable to lose such an iconic, historical, and magnificent.
Let's take a look around, shall we? Come on in. We found them.
Where people come and go. A cup of tea, a perfect way to end your day. Come see the beauty, only on Indonesia.
Fisik saya mungkin waktu itu memang lemah, tapi bagi saya fisik itu hanya seberapa persen dari kemampuan kita. Yang penting adalah ide. Biar anak muda jangan pernah putus asa.
Hey there, buddies! Welcome back to another episode of Buddy Talk.
Enggak, dia hostnya, kita co-hostnya.
It's better to be overdressed than underdressed. That's actually a good hack, because I used to live in Canada. That was our trick.
Point to Manado on the smash. I'm horrible. I told you I'm bad.
Dikira dengan banyaknya informasi itu kan jadi makin gampang gitu nulis.
Iya.
Tapi ternyata susah banget.
Alright guys, let's get into our first update for today.
Meanwhile, a plume of smoke was seen billowing in the distance from Rafah in the Gaza Strip on Saturday, marking the 11th week of humanitarian crisis in Palestine.
Mount Anak Krakatau continues to erupt, spewing volcanic materials up to 300 meters high.
Sri Mulyani Indrawati said that Indonesia has minimized taking that to meet the needs of the 2023 state budget until the end of the year.
Their existence is now being critically endangered.
Dia memiliki ekor yang sangat panjang, jauh lebih panjang daripada badannya sendiri.
Tekniknya dia keluar dia itu bergelombol, menggunakan punggung temannya untuk naik.
Sebenarnya konservasi burung hantu di sini latar belakangnya jelas asas manfaat. Jadi kita pengen melestarikan burung, melestarikan satwa, tapi juga otomatis dampaknya ke masyarakat yang khususnya sekarang kalau di sini kan petani.
Oh, I love this atmosphere. Woo! Heading to Gili Trawangan. And this special episode, I already prepared myself for an adventure on the island, which in the top of the list to visit. And this is the travel note because life is dope.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the C Morning Show. It is 6:30 in the a.m. and time for your first sports update of this Tuesday morning, where we're going to begin with some tennis news, where Alexander Zverev pulled through a dramatic 5-set triumph against Cameron Norrie to book his spot in the quarterfinals at the Australian Open. Zverev held his nerve in a deciding set tiebreak in a roller coaster match full of twists and turns. This improves his record now to 8-1 down under this season. Zverev mixed big serves with consistent baseline play to barely hold off Norrie's spirited charge. And on the other hand, his UK opponent frequently came to the net or deployed drop shots to try to disrupt Zverev's rhythm. The German decisively raised his level in the deciding tiebreak. However, he won 8 of his final 9 points in the match for a 4-hour, 5-minute victory. This has now earned Zverev a spot in the quarterfinals at Melbourne Park, where he will be taking on second-seeded Carlos Alcaraz in his hunt for his first Grand Slam title. And we have more updates from the men's side of the Australian Open, where Spaniard Carlos Alcaraz defeated his Serbian counterpart Miomir Kecmanovic 6-4, 6-4, and 6-love at the Rod Laver Arena in Melbourne on Monday. He is next set to face 6th-seeded Alexander Zverev in the quarterfinals. World number 2 Carlos Alcaraz may pose a challenge for Alexander Zverev in the quarterfinals as the Spaniard steamrolled Miomir Kecmanovic in the 4th round. Alcaraz was in extraordinary form on Rod Laver Arena, stunning both fans and commentators with his sheer athleticism and left his opponent with no answers. His athleticism and power were on full display in the early stages of the match, where he slammed winners from what most players would deem as regular rally balls. The Spaniard has now secured a quarterfinal spot in every major tournament at just 20 years old.
Well, I think everything. He did. I did everything almost perfectly. Yeah, you said in Miami in 2022, it was really close the match, high level from both parts. I think today it was a pretty good match as well. But yeah, as I said, I push him to the limit in every ball, in every point. And obviously, he has played a lot of matches in 5 sets, a lot of tough matches before this one. So probably physically, he wasn't at his 100%, you know. And as I said, in every ball that I push him to the limit, moving side by side, I could take my chances in every set, and I think it was a pretty good match for myself. Well, I mean, the nights before every match, I always try to eat sushi. I love it. So that's my routine. I mean, I have not a favorite restaurant, a favorite place. I just, you know, trying to try different things here in Melbourne. But the sushi is the right thing.
So that's the secret. Have sushi before every match. So Carlos Alcaraz is heating up just at the right time at the Aussie Open as he raced past Kecmanovic to seal a quarterfinal berth for the very first time on a hard court major. The 20-year-old Alcaraz clinched the only break in each of the opening 2 sets at Rod Laver before producing some scintillating baseline shots in the 3rd to wrap up the 1-hour 49-minute win. Alcaraz and Kecmanovic's only previous ATP head-to-head meeting had been a nail-biting deciding set tiebreak win for the Spaniard back in 2022 in Miami. The pair's first Grand Slam meeting never threatened to provide the same kind of drama, however, despite Kecmanovic competing as best as he could throughout. The Serbian, who outpulled through 5-set wins against seeded opponents Jan-Lennard Struff and Tommy Paul in his 2 previous rounds in Melbourne, was given very little time to settle by Alcaraz's consistently huge baseline striking. The 2-time major champion racked up 43 winners, 18 of which came from ground strokes. And after opening a 2-set lead, Alcaraz appeared to raise his level a step further as he accelerated to victory. And with his impressive triumph, Alcaraz maintained the pressure on Novak Djokovic in a battle for world number 1. The Spaniard trails Djokovic by just 200 points in the ATP Live rankings after joining the top-seeded Serbian in the quarterfinals. Alcaraz has just dropped 1 set so far in his 3rd appearance at the Australian Open, where he missed last year's edition due to injury. The Spaniard's next opponent, as mentioned, will be Zverev, and we're looking forward to that one. Speaking of what we're looking forward to, let's shift to some football news now, as Japan are among the favorites to win the 2023 AFC Asian Cup as the team sits 17th in the FIFA World Rank. Nevertheless, there is still hope for Indonesia because an upset when the 2 teams face each other in the decisive match this Wednesday could decide it all. This is due to the fact that the Garuda team had 1.15 matches against the Samurai Blue.
Garuda team will finally have a match against Japan in the Group D of 2023 AFC Asian Cup at the Al Tumama Stadium, Qatar. The match is very crucial for both teams, as the winner will automatically advance to the round of 16. Indonesia and Japan have collected 3 points from 2 matches in Group D. Japanese football team, who are dubbed the Blue Samurai, are indeed considered to have a bigger chance to win against Garuda squad. However, from all 15 matches competed in different competitions, Indonesia had defeated Japan 5 times. Indonesia first gained 5-3 victory against Japan in 1954 Asian Games in Manila. The last time Garuda squad won over the Blue Samurai 2-0 was on February 24, 1981, during a friendly match at the Gelora Bung Karno Stadium, Jakarta. Therefore, there's still hope for Indonesia to win the match against Japan.
All right, let's briefly summarize. As mentioned, both of these teams need a win to ensure their place in the round of 16 as runners-up, not even the winners of the group. Now, Japan is obviously, at this point, clearly much more favored to win the match, considering the quality of their squad, which is filled with some of the best talents who play in elite European leagues. Now, in total, Indonesia has played against Japan 15 times in various events and tournaments. Japan has, for the most part, been dominant, but it's not as if the red and white has never won. We've seen some of the wins there earlier. History shows that Indonesia has conquered Japan a total of 5 times. The last, a 2-0 victory at the Gelora Bung Karno Stadium in a friendly match on February the 24th of 1981. Now, the most iconic, going back several years, you saw the scoreline there. Indonesia destroyed Japan with an astounding 7-0 victory in the preliminary phase of the Merdeka tournament on August the 11th of 1968. Now, still in the same tournament in the 54 edition, Indonesia was able to beat Japan 5-3. Now, of course, Japan's current strength is much different compared to when Indonesia achieved those victories in the past. And what's more, the Samurai occupies the highest position in the FIFA Asian Zone rankings, 17th in the world, and the Garuda is ranked 146th according to FIFA. Now, even so, the fighting spirit of the past and Indonesia's recent 1-0 victory over Vietnam may be able to inspire Shin Tae-yong's troops to have a big surprise at Al Tunama Stadium in Qatar in their midweek matchup. Nothing is impossible in football. We'll just have to see what happens tomorrow evening. Now, as we mentioned, Indonesia is set to take on Japan in their final and decisive Group D match of the 2023 Asian Cup tomorrow evening. Meanwhile, Indonesian Football Association Chairman Erick Thohir emphasized the significance of this match as its outcome will have implications for the qualifications of the top 16 teams in the tournament. Here's more on what he had to say.
Kita sudah bermain sebaik mungkin kemarin lawan Malaysia. Kalau kita lihat 4 pertandingan terakhir kan itu kita 2 kali seri, 2 kali kalah. Tapi kemarin kita bisa mendapat kemenangan. Nah, tentu sekarang kan bagaimana nilai 3 poin ini kita bisa tambah untuk supaya menggaranti slot ke 16 besar. Tidak mudah, karena Jepang ini ranking 17. Kita kayaknya kemarin udah lebih bagus, 142 katanya. Karena itu saya memutuskan ya untuk terbang malam ini, siapa tahu bisa memberi effort lebih ya supaya bisa tampil paling tidak baik sebaik mereka bermain melawan Vietnam kemarin.
All right, with our PSSC boss out there in Qatar, perhaps that will provide even more inspiration for our squad. Now, still more news out of the 2023 AFC Asian Cup, where hosts Qatar defeated China 1-0 to advance to the knockout stage. Meanwhile, Tajikistan qualifies to the next round after beating Lebanon 2-1.
Debutant Tajikistan are through to the knockout stage after defeating Lebanon 2-1 in their final Group A match of the AFC Asian Cup on Monday in Doha, Qatar. Nuruddin Khamkorulov scored for Tajikistan's winning goal in the 2nd minute of stoppage time as the squad came back from a goal down to advance as the group's runner-up. Meanwhile, Lebanon opened just after halftime through Basel Dradi, but were left on 10 men after Qasim Al-Zain was sent off with a straight red card for a challenge in the 69th minute. Tajikistan, who survived having 2 goals disallowed by VAR, took advantage and struck twice to claim the full 3 points and move on. This caused Lebanon to be eliminated with the loss. In the other match, a highlight strike by Hassan Al-Haidos gave Qatar a 1-0 victory over China in their final Asian Group A clash on Monday. The Qatari captain came off the bench to smash one-touch volley from 20 yards past stunned China goalkeeper Yan Junling in the 66th minute for the margin of victory. Defending champions Qatar finished the group play with a perfect record, while Alexander Yankovic's China's side sit on the brink of eliminations after the loss. China did not score a goal in the group stage and finished with a 2-0 draws and a shutout loss.
All right, let's move on to some basketball news now from the NBA, where the Los Angeles Lakers finally got themselves a victory after defeating the lowly Portland Trail Blazers 132-110 at the Crypto.com Arena. Anthony Davis scored a double-double in this one. The Los Angeles Lakers finally secured victory. We now have a record of 22-22, or 500 on the season, and they secured this victory after defeating the Portland Trail Blazers 134-110 at the Crypto.com Arena. This has now elevated Los Angeles up to 9th place in the West. D'Angelo Russell played a big role in this one as he scored the most points for the Lakers, 34 points and 8 assists in total in just 34 minutes of play. Meanwhile, LeBron James remained strong, had a performance of 28 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. LeBron and Russell together scored the first 19 points for Los Angeles in the fourth quarter. This has also brought them to their highest ranking so far, 27 points. Meanwhile, Anthony Davis scored a double-double with 14 points and 14 rebounds. The Lakers' lead was recorded from 47 different shots out of 86 attempts, and that gives them a 54.7% accuracy rate. They also managed to take the lead with 13 three-point shots, most of them by D'Angelo Russell, followed by Austin Reeves and LeBron James with 3 each.
I mean, I've always been like that, you know, recognizing my superpower. You know, everybody in the league has one. Might be defensive or just a motor, whatever it may be, but everybody has one. And for me, just ever since I was a young kid, I always found myself, you know, kind of getting hot, you know, throughout the game where I might score 5-6 points right away. Maybe score 10 in a quarter or do something like that and score, you know, 10, 12 points the last 3 minutes of the game. You know, it's just my superpower.
Now, after a tough loss to the Brooklyn Nets, the Los Angeles Lakers returned on Sunday to host the Trailblazers, and they came in badly needing a win over an inferior opponent to get back to 500 on the season, and they got exactly that. 19-time NBA All-Star LeBron James had a great one in this one with 28, 5, and 5. He went a very efficient 8 of 16 from the field and 3 of 8 from three-point range in just 31 minutes of playing time. Another good statistic as he was able to get some rest. James is now averaging 24.8 points, 7.2 rebounds, 7.4 assists, and 1.3 steals per game this season, while shooting 52% from the field and just under 40% from three-point line in 39 games this season. With this victory, the Lakers are now at 500 across their first 44 games, which has them sitting 9th in the Western Conference. They are 5-5 over the last 10 games and are 16-8 in the 24 games that they have hosted in Los Angeles at Crypto.com. Following Sunday's victory over the Blazers, the Lakers will face off against another Russell in Russell Westbrook and the Los Angeles Clippers as the road team. That will take place tomorrow morning at Crypto.com Arena as well. The Lakers will be looking to improve to 3-0 against their in-city rivals this season. No easy task, as the Clippers are absolutely on fire at the moment. We look forward to that derby, and we'll share with you the highlights and results after it takes place. In the meantime, though, that wraps up our sports update for now. We'll have more sports for you later on before the end of our program. Coming up next, we will have Caroline and Rasha back here on the C Morning Show to share with you the latest from the world of entertainment. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Spotlight, ladies and gentlemen, where we bring you guys some of the sports that you guys can go play here in Indonesia.
Handball karena masih baru tadi kita harus bisa juga mempopulerkan ini kepada masyarakat sampai ke bawah.
We do it from scratch at the time because we don't know ice hockey, how to play, how to develop, how to manage this sport.
Yeah, you don't have to be good with your foot. You can just dribble the ball and just throw it to the full ball.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
The beauty and the excitement of being there.
Indescribable through such an iconic, historical, and magnificent.
Let's take a look around, shall we? Come on in. We found them.
Where people come and go.
A cup of tea, a perfect way to end your day. Come see the beauty, only on See Indonesia.
Bahkan brosurnya aja Pak, saya udah pelan-pelanin jalan, ditegur, Mas cepetan gitu. Ini bisa baca perilaku kamu, selanjutnya mau baca tarot nggak? Iya.
Oh iya, Sir.
Sama mana tangan kamu?
Keren banget, mau Om.
Group of volunteers operating in the south of the city has united to assist displaced children in a refugee camp in Rafah in overcoming the trauma of war. The volunteers come from diverse professional backgrounds and share expertise in working with young people.
Berangkat aja dulu, kerjakan apa yang ada di depan kalian. Setidaknya kalian hari ini walaupun tidak mendapatkan uang, tapi kalian mendapatkan kesempatan.
Walaupun di awal-awal itu banyak sekali rintangan dan tantangan.
Kalian berproses aja dulu, jalan aja dulu. Kalau udah waktunya kalian untuk dapetin uang akan datang nyamperin kalian. Hal yang paling sangat utama untuk mengawali bisnis, ridho dan restu orang tua. Itu hal dan modal paling besar dalam mengawali usaha.
Hey there, buddies! Welcome back to another episode of Buddy Talk.
Enggak, dia hostnya, kita co-hostnya.
It's better to be overdressed than underdressed. That's actually a good hack, because I used to live in Canada. That was our trick. Point to Manado on the smash. I'm horrible. I told you I'm bad.
Dikira dengan banyaknya informasi itu kan jadi makin gampang gitu nulisnya.
Iya.
Tapi ternyata susah banget.
Hello folks, welcome back to the program. As mentioned by Paul, yes, it is time for I and also Rasha to cover and also cater to and deliver some entertainment news. And of course, the beginning of the year, I think everyone is always excited for the Oscars.
Yes.
Are you more excited for who's going to win the awards or the red carpet? It goes back to that, right?
I think I love both, to be honest, but specifically this year, I'm very excited for the awards because I have my two favorite movies that are in the run for being nominated, Oppenheimer and Barbie, which we will hear about more later. But what about you? Are you excited more about the awards or the red carpet?
Yeah, there's like some great movies, especially for this, you know, for this Oscar. But yes, I remember Oppenheimer and Barbie, why you mentioned, because I remember at that time when both of them premiere at the same time, and then Rasha was like, should we do Barbie first or should we do Oppenheimer first? That was a good time then.
Yeah, I was so perplexed by Oppenheimer.
Yes.
Like it leaves me lasting impressions, so I'm really excited for the movie.
But did you watch Barbie?
I do watch.
Yes.
I do watch Barbie first, actually.
Oh,
but
you
then I was so impressed by Oppenheimer as well.
Well, she's like a living Barbie, by the way, right here. All right, so again, yes, as we're talking about the Oscars and likely to guess who may potentially win the coveted trophies of this year.
Yes, and as we've mentioned before, it is so fun to predict who may win the Oscars, but there's often little to no room for debate. So here are our prediction of who may get nominated.
Build a town, build it fast.
Oppenheimer is holding firm to its presumed front-runner status following its high-profile wins at the Golden Globes and Critics' Choice Awards. Although it still has a road to travel to a win, a nomination is assured.
Thing to ever happen in the history of the world.
You're the great improviser, but this
you can't do in your head.
Are we saying there's a chance that when we push that button, we destroy the world?
I'm actually not sure.
Same goes for its summer box office twin, Barbie, and Killers of the Flower Moon, both of which have had strong showings with every imaginable precursor.
Their time is over.
It is the goal of all to progress.
Meanwhile, Poor Things and The Color Purple got a major boost from its SAG Ensemble nomination.
See the world. Oh, Miss Celia, you look good.
You just earned yourself a detention, sir. Being here with you is already one big detention.
From there, we have some strong contenders with a few caveats. The Holdovers has been warmly received all season, and star Davine Joy Randolph is stream-rolling the supporting actress category.
And I'll stay out of yours.
Let me sleep.
Now, most of the kids dislike you, pretty much hate you. Teachers too. You know that, right?
I find the world a bitter and complicated place, and it seems to feel the same way about me. I think you and I have this in common.
That music, it keeps me glued to life.
Maestro has been driven more by buzz for its lead performances than by director Bradley Cooper's achievements. However, a film this gorgeously mounted and moving out to get a Best Picture inclusion too.
And if nothing sings in you, and you can't make music. Makes me feel like I can't live without you.
Meanwhile, Past Lives has been steady as the season's heartfelt indie that could, with that Producers Guild nomination, proving it has the attention of a wide swath of the industry.
만약에 네가 한국을 떠나지 않았다면 내가 널 찾았을까? 우리가 사귀었을까? 헤어졌을까? 부부가 됐을까? 아이들을 가졌을까?
너는 나를 왜 찾았어?
한 번 더 보고 싶었어.
You complain about the life that you chose. You're not a victim. Not at all.
Be fair. I'm a man who's been cheated on.
Palme d'Or winner Anatomy of a Fall has been a strong contender from its Cannes premiere, which makes it very likely to follow fellow Palme winners Triangle of Sadness and Parasite into this lineup.
I'm innocent, you know that, right?
Oh, what a prediction. You're top two.
I know.
See today's top two. Your top two is there.
I think we're all aligned here. But yeah, I think a lot of people would also have predicted the same.
Yes.
And I'm just hoping that whoever wins, as you've mentioned earlier, both Barbie and Oppenheimer are very strong and also relatable to our today's life and issues that are happening right now, as we know, right? So yeah, hopefully the best might win. But as you've mentioned as well, usually in Oscar, there might be some other consideration as well that they take.
Yeah, you know, sometimes like when we're seeing Oscars, we just want them to award, whether that's from the team itself, actors, actresses, directors, and also the, But then now it's more on the political views, right? Like you need to have this certain kind of community to win, so then the other community won't feel they're left behind. But I think it should be more on the arts and the performances.
So I think my key takeaway is I don't want to jinx it. So let's just hope that the best team and the best person wins.
And Rasha and I will be watching over the red carpet, by the way.
I know,
for
we
the
will
best
watch
dresses.
the red carpet. All right, now, speaking of red carpet and dresses and fashion, we're now moving on to the world of fashion, where Indian designer Rahul Mishra represented his latest couture collection in Paris, France on Monday.
Now, he had presented unique designs inspired by insects. Let's take a look.
Indian model and actor Ananya Pandey walked the show in a black dress holding a circle embroidered with the colorful butterflies and the same of a dress. The collection was inspired by Mishra's new connection with nature after building a house in the Himalayan hills and realizing he has been missing the insects.
Very personal experience. I've been building a house in Himalayan hills, and it's a place which is very close to a forest, reserve forest. So every kind of insect, every kind of species, every kind of bird you can find over there, which is very rare to find in a city. So more I discover, more I realize what I've missed in my life, what I've been missing in my life in a city life. And then I was wondering, my daughter is 8-year-old. She has never seen a dragonfly in her life. She has never seen, a firefly, a glowworm. And now at biological lab, she would discover maybe a specimen of an insect on a petri dish. I don't know if this is the right kind of world. So for us, then I started thinking of what insects have done to the world, because they have come 300 million before us. They have created all the pollination, all the food, the way life we see today. They have created the nature the way we know. And when it is so beautiful, maybe we do not acknowledge it, and still they go about doing it. So that's why it's called superheroes.
The collection has many embroidered dragonflies on diaphanous organzas, embroidered massive beetles on a hot pink cape, a jellyfish-like silver costume, lizards embossed on a black velvet skirts, golden embroideries as of fashionable turbans.
Well, I have to tell you, Rasha, I'm always afraid of insects, but using that on my body, I don't think I'll be scared anymore. It looks very beautiful. Now, of course, Rasha, you have something from Indonesia.
That's right, Caroline. So, an Indonesian actor, Nicholas Saputra, is set to star in a Philippine series called Secret Ingredients with Philippine actress Julia Barreto and South Korean actor Lee Sang-hyun. Let's take a look.
That's right, Rasha. The 6-episode romantic comedy series revolves around 3 people as they explore different cuisines and cultures from Indonesia, the Philippines, and also South Korea.
It tells the story of a South Korean socialite played by Lee, who embarks on a journey to find his lost lover, played by Barreto, and meanwhile, Saputra will play the role of a chef.
All right, the premiere date of Secret Ingredients has yet to be announced, but fans are anticipating to see the chemistry between these diverse actors from 3 different regions. Amazing.
I think we see more and more celebrities, socialites from the region of Southeast Asia and the surroundings sort of collaborate with each other, right? Like with this movie, and also we know the last event that became viral on social media, the wedding of Prince Martin and Anisha, and we see a lot of people from Thailand, from the Philippines, also from Indonesia come to the wedding, and I think we need more of that, right?
That's right.
Because we cannot have similar culture, and there's a lot of creativity that can be, that can be done and created new things.
Collaboratively together. It's a powerhouse.
I know, right? So looking forward to that.
Definitely.
Yes. But all right, guys, that's a wrap for our entertainment segment for this hour. We're up for another short break. In the meantime, don't forget to follow our social media accounts if you haven't already. We're on Instagram, X, and YouTube at See Today News. Stay tuned because Caroline will be back with some business updates.
Thank you, Rasha.
Their existence is now being critically endangered.
Dia memiliki ekor yang sangat panjang, jauh lebih panjang daripada badannya sendiri.
Tekniknya dia bergelombol menggunakan punggung temannya untuk naik.
Sebenarnya konservasi burung hantu di sini latar belakangnya jelas asas manfaat. Jadi kita pengen melestarikan burung, melestarikan satwa, tapi juga otomatis dampaknya ke masyarakat yang khususnya sekarang kalau di sini kan petani.
love this atmosphere. Woo! Heading to Gili Trawangan. And this special episode, I already prepared myself for an adventure on the island, which in the top of the list to visit. And this is the travel note because life is dope.
Welcome back to Spotlight, ladies and gentlemen, where we bring you guys some of the sports that you guys can go play here in Indonesia.
Handball karena masih baru, tadi kita harus bisa juga mempopulerkan ini kepada masyarakat sampai ke bawah.
We do it from scratch at the time because we don't know ice hockey, how to play, how to develop, how to manage this sport.
You don't have to be good with your foot. Like, you can just dribble the ball and just throw it to the full ball.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Asian flavors is gaining more popularity around the world in the last decade. Personally love this, not just because it is familiar for our palate, but because the airiness, the textures of the youtiao, it's completely different when baguette. So with those appetites and with those pleasure-driven people, Menteng is a very special place for restaurant.
A group of volunteers operating in the south of the city has united to assist displaced children in a refugee camp in Rafah in overcoming the trauma of war. The volunteers come from diverse professional backgrounds and share expertise in working with young people.
Ke Binjai mau migrasi. Anjay, aku deportasi.
Ya, aku cuma mau bilang hari ini kamu tuh cantik loh.
Aduh ya Allah.
Oke lah kalau penampilan dia nggak sebaik itu, nggak sebagus itu, nggak seganteng itu, tapi itu hatinya dia sebaik itu dan tidak ada orang yang pernah gue temuin hatinya sebaik Mars.
Pemain.
Hello folks, welcome back to the program right here with me, Caroline Sarahmat, as we like to deliver some See Today business update. We begin with the first story where the Indonesian government recently set the entertainment tax at 40 to 75% through the country's finance ministry. This garnered protest from many business owners as there are unclear definition regarding forms of entertainment that will be affected by higher tax.
Finance Ministry Regional Taxes and Levies Director Lydia Kurniawati clarified that taxes are not only applied to collect funds from the public. She said that tax can be used to control certain types of entertainment activities, as some of its categories, such as karaoke, steam baths, discos and bars, can only be accessed by certain groups. However, Tourism and Creative Economy Ministry mentioned that policies related to certain entertainment taxes are currently still under judicial review.
Dari Kemenparekraf melalui Deputi 1 juga sudah melakukan kajian untuk ini. Jadi senyampang kita menunggu GR-nya, judicial review-nya yang sekarang sedang dalam proses untuk sidang pertama itu, tentunya ada beberapa hal yang bisa dilakukan oleh Kementerian Pariwisata dan Ekonomi Kreatif terkait dengan arahan Presiden kemarin. Ini kan memanfaatkan pasal 101 ya Bu ya, pasal 101 dari undang-undang itu, yang dimana memang dimungkinkan untuk diberikan insentif fiskal seperti yang mungkin sedang dielaborasi oleh teman-teman di Pemkab Badung.
Meanwhile, many creative economy owners complained that the tax policy imposed is too high. Social activist Neil Lujelantik said that policies related to entertainment tax do not understand the nature of entertainment in Bali.
Saya berharap Mas Menteri bisa mengajak Ibu Sri Mulyani ke Bali, bertemu dengan semua pengusaha spa.
Ini Pak Kadisnya ada di sini nih, Pak Kadis lambaikan tangan dulu. Pengusaha spa sudah diatur dulu.
Semua pengusaha spa, bertemu dengan semua pengusaha hiburan, karena seperti yang kita ketahui, Bali 60%-nya adalah pariwisata. Kita jangan bisa menyamaratakan bahwa semua bisnis hiburan itu adalah hanya untuk orang tertentu. Kalau spa itu, mandi uap itu, kalau kita misalnya massage dengan para pelaku pekerja pariwisata yang berada di jalanan, di Seminyak, di Legian dan di Kuta, itu tarifnya hanya Rp150.000. Dengan tarif Rp150.000 dan kemudian diterapkan pajak seperti yang disampaikan oleh Ibu Lydia, itu sama dengan membunuh rakyat, Ibu.
The Bali Tourism Office also criticized the government's policy of having to put spas in some categories.
Persoalannya kan kita harus memulai dari definisi spa itu Mas Menteri. Ini yang mengapa teman-teman di daerah agak keberatan spa itu sebagai hiburan. Karena definisi spa sudah masuk di Undang-Undang 10 2009 dan kami di Perda 5 tahun 2020 bagaimana spa itu juga artinya adalah mengembalikan kebugaran masalah air itu dengan berdasarkan budaya.
Kurniawati said that the government plays an important role in determining the entertainment tax. Regional governments are also given a room to make adjustments according to characteristics and societal problems in their respective regions.
Di dalam Undang-Undang HKPD itu memberikan kewenangan kepada kepala daerah. Yang pertama adalah menentukan tarif, menetapkan tarif. Ya. Yang kedua adalah memberikan ruang kewenangan untuk memberikan insentif fiskal berupa pengurangan, keringanan,
pengecualian,
penghapusan, pengecualian. Kami dari Kementerian Keuangan dan Kementerian Dalam Negeri tentunya siap ketika teman-teman di pemerintah daerah menanyakan kepada kami prosesnya seperti apa, dan satu yang perlu kami sampaikan bahwa dalam penetapan perkada ini cukup diberitahukan kepada DPRD, tidak melalui proses pembahasan lagi.
Meanwhile, the Finance Ministry has given permission for the local government to adjust the tax policies, such as to reduce, exclude, or provide more incentives. Arif Subakti, Nugroho Harjo for C Today.
And we have more business updates right here from our nation, where the Association of Indonesian Automotive Manufacturers, or GAIKINDO, reported that over 1 million vehicles were sold in Indonesia last year. However, there is a gap of 42,238 vehicles compared to sales made in 2022, meaning a 4% drop. Meanwhile, electric vehicle sales in 2023 soared 352% year-on-year. GAIKINDO had released a report detailing electric vehicle sales in 2023, which soared 352% year-on-year to almost 70,000 units. The market was dominated by hybrid EVs, with 52,568 units sold, for an increase of 931% year-on-year. Toyota leads the pack with their Innova Zenix Hybrid and Yaris Cross Hybrid. GAIKINDO also recorded that 17,058 units of battery electric vehicles, or BEVs, were sold last year, for a 65% year-on-year increase. Hyundai Ioniq 5 still dominated sales, following by the Wuling Air EV. Both models are eligible for an 11% VAT cut, since 40% of their components are manufactured domestically. And of course, since the new arrival of these EV automobiles, Indonesian government has used tax incentive to increase electric car sales. This includes removing a luxury sales tax and lowering value-added tax. And also, the government also offers a 7 million Indonesian rupiah subsidy for each electric motorcycle sales. Now, for the more state-owned electric company, or PLN, provides discounts for EV owners charging their vehicles at home overnight. While these incentives are designed to boost the domestic EV use in Indonesia, they are a part of a broader government plan for the country to become a global EV and battery manufacturing hub. In regards to that, the Indonesian government is capitalizing on the country's vast reserves for nickel and channeling it into EV manufacturing chain that includes battery hubs, with the first plant to start producing batteries of this year. Nickel, as we know, is a key ingredient in lithium-ion batteries used in some EVs. But nevertheless, according to the International Energy Agency, China is still the world leader in EV manufacturing and uptake rates. So we're going to have more further updates in regards to that. But now let's shift our focus to another update, where various international climate and scientific agencies officially declared that 2023 is the hottest year ever recorded. A recent study by the Lancet attempts to calculate the impact of heat on the economy and draws a startling conclusion. Let's take a look.
In early January 2024,
the World Meteorological Organization, or WMO, officially declared that 2023 is the hottest year on record. According to the WMO, the average global temperature in 2023 was 1.45 degrees Celsius warmer than the pre-industrial temperatures. The latest announcements, which combines measurements from 6 different data sets drawn from the United States, United Kingdom, Japan, and European climate agencies, found that 2023 ranked as the warmest year in all 6 data sets.
Our report on climate showed that we are close to 1.5 above pre-industrial levels in 2023. And the science, and it's not just an opinion, and that is something I want to build on. We are building on science, tells us that during El Niño years we have more possibilities to have a warmer year. So we expect to be close or above the 1.5 degrees. So I think that what the atmosphere is telling us is that the trend is there, and we should really be worried about this trend. That is what the atmosphere and the data is telling us. For the global society, we must take action.
While 2023 is already the hottest year on record, the WMO predicts that 2024 will be even warmer, as global temperatures often rise after the peak of El Niño. Record-breaking heat will be accompanied by enormous socio-economic impacts. A recent study published by The Lancet, one of the world's leading sources of health and clinical research, attempts to calculate the impact that excessive heat can have on the economy. The study found that excess heat exposure has limited global labor productivity, resulting in a loss of 490 billion hours of potential labor hours in 2022, an increase of 42% from the annual average recorded between 1991 and 2000. The loss of potential labor hours has also caused global GDP to shrink by $863 billion, with 81% of potential income losses generally felt by the most vulnerable and least protected agricultural workers in low-income countries. The study reckons that by 2022, excess heat exposures has caused GDP in Africa to shrink by 4.1%, and in Southeast Asia by nearly 5%. The study estimates that without any further adaptation and mitigation, potential labor hours will be 2 to 5 times higher between 2041 and 2060.
Our odds right now for 2024, we're saying there's about a 1 in 3 chance that 2024 will be warmer than 2023. And we think there's a 99% chance that 2024 will land in the top 5. We're pretty comfortable with that. And this is barring something like a major volcanic eruption or an asteroid slamming into the planet. We don't want either of those to happen. We don't really want it to be the warmest year on record either. But, you know, that's where things are looking right now.
This is my house. This is the ash, the remains of my house. But, yeah, the fire knocked out the whole neighborhood.
Economic losses due to extreme events increased by 23% from 2010 to 2014 and from 2018 to 2022. Meanwhile, climate-related disasters caused economic losses of more than $264 billion in 2022 alone. Rising temperatures will not only make some places more dangerous to work in, but it could also increase the number of people who are too sick to work, and thus impose additional costs on society to care for them.
And that sums up our business update for this episode. Coming up, we are going to have a talk show, in which regard we're going to discuss about erotomania with Mutiara Maharini, our clinic psychologist. So don't go anywhere, stay tuned right here on the C Morning Show. We'll be right back.
The beauty and the excitement of being there.
Indescribable to lose such an iconic, historical, and magnificent.
Let's take a look around, shall we? Come on in. We found them.
Where people come and go.
A cup of tea, a perfect way to end your day. Come see the beauty, only on See Indonesia.
Fisik saya mungkin waktu itu memang lemah, tapi bagi saya fisik itu hanya seberapa persen dari kemampuan kita. Yang penting adalah ide. Di anak-anak muda jangan pernah putus asa.
Hey there, buddies! Welcome back to another episode of Buddy Talk.
Enggak, dia hostnya, kita co-hostnya.
It's better to be overdressed than underdressed. That's actually a good hack, because I used to live in Canada. That was our trick. Point to Manado on this map. I'm horrible. I told you I'm bad.
Dikira dengan banyaknya informasi itu kan jadi makin gampang gitu nulis.
Iya.
Tapi ternyata susah banget.
All right, guys, let's get into our first update for today.
Meanwhile, a plume of smoke was seen billowing in the distance from Rafah in the Gaza Strip on Saturday, marking the 11th week of humanitarian crisis in Palestine.
Mount Anak Krakatau continues to erupt, spewing volcanic materials up to 300 meters high.
Sri Mulyani Indrawati said that Indonesia has minimized taking debt to meet the needs of the 2023 state budget until the end of the year.
Their existence is now being critically endangered.
Dia memiliki ekor yang sangat panjang, jauh lebih panjang daripada badannya sendiri.
Tekniknya dia itu bergelombol, menggunakan punggung temannya untuk naik.
Sebenarnya konservasi burung hantu di sini latar belakangnya jelas asas manfaat. Jadi kita pengen melestarikan burung, melestarikan satwa, tapi juga otomatis dampaknya ke masyarakat yang khususnya sekarang kalau di sini kan petani.
Oh, I love this atmosphere. Woo! Heading to Gili Trawangan. And this special episode, I already prepared myself for an adventure on the island, which in the top of the list to visit. And this is the travel note because life is dope.
The beauty and the excitement of being there.
Indescribable to lose such an iconic, historical, and magnificent.
Let's take a look around, shall we? Come on in. We found them.
Where people come and go.
A cup of tea, a perfect way to end your day. Come see the beauty, only on See Indonesia.
Bahkan brosurnya aja Pak, saya udah pelan-pelanin jalan. Ditegur, Mas cepetan gitu. Ini bisa baca perilaku kamu sekalian. Kita mau baca tarot nggak? Iya.
Oh iya, Sa.
Mana tangan kamu?
Keren banget. Mau, Om.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the program. We're fast approaching the halfway point of our show, which is leading us to our morning discussion. And this is something that has been widely discussed on social media, although new to me. It's called erotomania. Caroline, have you ever heard of this?
It is new to me also. I'm not aware about this term, so I did Google it. So it says right here when it's typical, whether men or women have an illusion that someone else is falling in love with them.
Really?
Whether it's true or not. So, but some people would mistake this erotomania with overconfidence treatments when it's a sub of a mental health disorder. But we're going to dive more about erotomania. Now join with us personal growth clinical psychologist Mutiara Maharini. Good morning, Mutiara. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Good to see you again.
Really nice
Happy
to be
belated
here
New Year.
again.
Yes, very smiling. Even in like our studio is full with like romance, because we are talking a bit about romance right here. So please do explain with us, because I did Google it, and of course this is something new for Paul and myself also. The psychiatry definition of this condition, erotomania, what is it?
Okay, so erotomania is actually a subtype of a delusional disorder.
Okay.
So it's a delusion. And the delusion is where somebody believes that it's usually somebody with higher social status. It could be your boss, it could be a celebrity, it could be the president, the queen, is in love with you or infatuated with you, even though there is no evidence at all.
Right, basically it's that. Sometimes right, the king and the queen would convey a message, right, to its people, and you would think it's only for me.
Okay, that's a bit of a stretch for me, because I find this one is a little bit hard to wrap my head around, because if you feel like somebody that you know may be in love with you, that's one thing. But infatuation and love, that's like a whole different, like that's a next level thing.
It's really intense.
Especially when this person doesn't even know you, if they're a big celebrity or something. So can you tell us, like, is this actually a scope? Is this actually a wide range where it could happen between, let's say, two colleagues or friends, and stretch all the way to like or is this specifically only for that high-level infatuation for people they don't know?
Okay. So erotomania is only for the people who there's really no evidence at all. You don't know them, and it really causes. It really is something unrealistic, because like if you're friends, then there might be a possibility there, right?
True.
So it's not a delusion. Maybe you're overconfident, but it's not a delusion.
Reading the signals wrong.
Yeah. Because the thing about having a delusion is that no matter what evidence people tell you, you will be fixated on it. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, yeah, you say you don't love me, but I know you love me.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's the word intense comes from, right?
Yes.
Okay, so now that's why I see a lot of this, especially like musicians. They have like people, you know, kind of being, not attacking them, but you know, they're watching over their favorite musicians or actress outside of their homes, and you know, trying to do stuff that scare them, but actually they're infatuated by them. They want to be a part of their lives.
And now that you mentioned musicians, so we have many friends that are musicians. One of the things that musicians do as well is when they're performing live, they actually make eye contact, and this is part of being your stage presence, right? So if you make eye contact with you're laughing at this, but it's true. Make a fan or someone, they'd be like, "Oh my God, he's looking right at me."
Chris Martin was so far away from me, but when the jumbotron looked at me, I felt like he's talking to me. I felt like that. But this is an alert, because this is an important condition also. Let's talk back about this. So what makes the difference between someone that's overconfident? Because you touch a great point right there, P. If like you have a superior in your office and he's just being nice to you, but you thought that he's giving you that kind of signal. So what differentiate this, and how can we, you know, kind of like topple this situation?
Somebody can just be like overly confident, right? You mentioned that earlier.
Well, again, it's about having the delusion. That's the only difference, really. Because overconfidence is you're overestimating, you know, you might think, you're analyzing someone, you think that, oh, he looked at me for 1 second, that means he's in love with me.
1 second longer.
1 second longer, right? And then he winked at me when actually maybe there's something wrong with his eye, right? But the thing about having erotomania, it's very, very serious. So it's a lot more intense than that. You really believe that somebody is in love with you when you have not even met them. I mean, not even online. So it's
not even a chat, not even a message.
Not even anything.
Okay, so all jokes aside, I mean, how does this even happen? I mean, we laugh about it, but this is actually happening to people. We've apparently seen it on social media as well. So how does this come about? How does somebody develop erotomania?
So when we're talking about disorders, there's always the biopsychosocial factors. First of all, the biological factor. This is something that is genetic.
Is it?
There's actually brain abnormalities and some neurotransmitter deficiencies, but it's something that is still, you know, psychology is quite new, right? So it's not really well researched yet. The second thing is the psychological factors. usually people who have schizophrenia, bipolar, or a depression are more prone to having this kind of delusion.
Yeah.
But it actually roots from a lack of self-esteem, from experiencing trauma or social isolation. So you have a big need to actually have affection, to be loved. And it manifests in a way that you have a delusion about it.
So it's almost the opposite of being confident.
Yeah. It is. It is the opposite of that.
Is it
the last part of it? You mentioned 3.
Yes, and then the last part is social. So I think we've all watched the kind of Disney movies, right, when we were a kid. And then you see Snow White
guilty,
waiting to be saved by a prince. And then there's Cinderella, who has a prince obsessing over her from her shoe.
Right.
And so those are actually things that kind of affect us and make us think that, oh, maybe I'm going to experience that too.
Where's my white knight, right?
Yeah.
So our social factors are embedding these kind of beliefs in ourselves.
And actually, I think the entertainment industry kind of like exploits that part of us, right? I mean, Chris Martin looking at you and then, winking at you, saying, I love Indonesia. Oh, Indonesia, that's me, right?
That's right, yes, because I represent Indonesia, so you're talking to me.
Exactly, and it's even, I mean, to an extent where, you can video call, like, some of the K-pop artists now or whatnot. And that makes it like, oh, we only talk for 30 seconds, but I'm sure she's in love with me.
Wait, so, sorry to add on to this, but does that actually make it worse? Because nowadays celebrities, because of social media or OnlyFans or all these things, are becoming more accessible.
Yes, it actually makes it worse because it's harder for us to kind of deny or tell this person that what they're thinking is not real. I mean, even though they have a delusion and they will always say that what they're thinking is real, it's even harder and harder to treat them.
Yeah, I think like it's to differentiate what is real and what is not real, right? I mean, we've seen a lot of right now celebrities or musicians right here in Indonesia would say, happy birthday, let's say happy birthday, Caroline. And you were like, oh my gosh, like, my birthday, which maybe it was just because someone that knows a celebrity says happy birthday, want to give it to you as a present. If someone is not mentally healthy, they would think, oh, then you would, probably like me and whatnot. It's just, you would, touch base on Disney, yes. I mean, I'm very guilty of that. And then when I, enter my marriage life, then I realize it is not happily ever after. It is a new beginning of a roller coaster ride.
It's real life.
Yeah, so it's very different than that. So how can someone, I would not say them or the one that has this condition, erotomania, knows the symptoms because they're delusions. But then it's the people, like the support system that needs to know what kind of symptoms that we should see from a friend, from a loved ones, a colleague, that we should see as an alert, that we need to take them to a professional.
Okay. So I think what we've been talking about has actually been quite like daily things, like, going to a concert, having an artist or celebrity say happy birthday to you. But the people experiencing erotomania have it quite more extreme than that. So they're the kind of people who stalk the celebrities, are waiting downstairs, of their apartment. And it's like, I think it was like Queen Elizabeth had like a stalker that literally lived like behind there, and not really lived, he was just like waited there for 10 years until he died.
10 years.
Yeah, so it was really, it's really extreme. And if you're somebody close to them, it's basically, you can see that their behaviors, it's like they're obsessed and it's almost compulsive, like they cannot not do it. They can't control themselves. So they really they have to go to work? No. They go to the concert. They have to go to work? No. They go see, wherever this person is. So it's quite extreme, and I'm pretty sure you will notice it quite soon. And when you talk to them, you really understand that, oh, they really, really believe that this person is in love with them. It's like they don't even follow you back on Instagram. How would you think that, right? So you can see this quite obviously. I mean, among the other disorders, this one is quite like easy to spot.
Unique.
Destructive too.
You know the reason they don't follow me back on Instagram is because they don't want to make it too obvious. Only for me.
Yeah.
See, that's the kind of thing they say to justify it. I'm getting it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so the tricky part about dealing with somebody who's delusional is that it's very hard to convince them, like you said, that you do have this condition. So apart from, and I would say that taking them to a professional is one challenge within itself, but getting once they're there, it may be a challenge presented to the person that has to help them. So how do you deal with somebody who has erythromelia?
Well, usually the first thing is they do need to take medications because, again, I said it's also a biological thing, right? They need
what does the medication do?
Antipsychotics, and that helps lower the level of delusion that they have.
Puts them more in touch with reality. I've heard of this.
Yeah. So once you do that, then you can go to therapy. But before that, it's like you're not going to listen to anything the therapist says.
Yeah.
And once you go into therapy, then you can have the cognitive behavior therapy, where basically they kind of list down all of your irrational beliefs and then tell you, okay, this one is not right because of this, and then you're kind of like, okay, slowly but surely you have a better grasp of reality.
Yes. So I think it's going to be quite hard, especially snapping out, someone to reality back. Does this mean, because we've seen this especially increasing because of social media, especially of K-pop, by the way. I mean, we've seen a lot of this K-pop, huge fans. They're just so very fanatic. Do you think that there's one of the ways is for them to kind of lower themselves or kind of detach from social media, having a detox social media once in a while?
Well, I think it might help with the symptoms, but in order to kind of treat the disorder, that is not changing. That is not the same as going to a professional. Just by limiting your social media time.
Yeah.
It decreases the amount that maybe you're obsessing over them because you're not looking at their social media, and you're not thinking that the heart they give on their caption is for you.
So there's less triggers, basically.
Yeah, there's less triggers, and that helps so that you maybe will not feel as stressed as usual, because what we haven't said is that erythromelia, the people who experience this, are actually very stressed out because sometimes they might have mood swings because they think, oh, why hasn't he posted today? Is he mad at me?
Oh my goodness.
To that extent.
To that extent.
Okay.
So it is very serious. I mean, I know we're like thinking it's kind of funny, but it really actually isn't.
It's actually kind of scary now that we're
It is really scary.
Because you don't know to what extent that they're going to do towards that person.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, this is someone
and
from
even
the
for you guys, because like David Letterman actually had someone stalking him who had erythromelia.
Yeah. I also want to ask, though, just an added question, P, sorry, excuse me about this, as parenting, because I think, kids nowadays, because they're, just social media, everything is, all information is just up in their face. How can we prevent this from our children?
I think the most important thing is actually having routine reality checks with your child, because you need to ask them like, oh, I know you really like, him or her or this band, but you know that this is, I mean, especially you're in the entertainment industry. The entertainment industry works like this. We monetize when people like us. We monetize when people, it's like, it's very much based on the attraction. So you have to be careful to understand that what they're showing is not exactly what's reality. I mean, they seem like they really like you, they say they love you and but they love their fandom, not you. And that is something you need to be quite, subtle about, not very harsh on them, but make sure from time to time that they have a grasp of reality.
That is such a really good point, because we throw the word love around so easily these days. In fact, it's in the shape of a heart. Everything is in the shape of a heart, whether you're applying to a WhatsApp message or if you just like somebody's post. So again, this can be very easily misinterpreted. One of the more disturbing things that you mentioned was the fact that one of the 3 factors was this is biological. Can somebody ever fully be cured of erythromelia once they have it?
Well, this is actually something quite hard, because even though it happens suddenly to you, but it's actually chronic. So I think biologically, you will feel helped by having medication, but you will have to go to therapy routinely to make sure that it's, all good and maintained so that you don't have another relapse.
Was there like an age range when the symptoms are, kind of like showing?
It's usually like from young adulthood. It starts there. I mean, the same as us starting to really have intense relationships.
Like after puberty, when you start having relationships.
Our children's almost...
Before you get married, because that's a reality check, right? So there you go. So just perhaps a couple of pointers about how you usually deal with somebody that has erotomania once they're in treatment.
I think the first thing, again, is make sure the biological factors are covered in because, again, it's very hard to talk to anyone if they are completely full in on their delusion. And then the second thing is basically, first of all, we really need to list all of their beliefs, all of their behaviors, and know the consequences because some of these things are illegal, right? So we need to make sure they understand all of that and slowly also kind of touch the part where most likely they're feeling very lonely, right? Lonely, lack of self-esteem, not have any real friends, and try to touch on that part so that they can function as a normal human being and feel love like in a real way, not in a delusional way.
So would that be one of the things that you would suggest to a patient, for example, like form some real relationships, go out there and hang out with some people?
That's why it's also so good to have support groups of people who have erotomania. But the thing is, because they're in that delusion, not a lot of them get help, right? Because they don't think there's anything wrong with them.
That's right. And then, you know, to take away, just set aside from the groups of like the K-pop fandom or any celebrity fandom because you will feel the same, right? So you need to detach yourself from that.
Yeah.
But again, this is a no-joke condition, definitely, because it is disrupting and it's going to disrupt also your loved ones, your community, and you know your life. So hopefully that if you know that your loved ones or someone that you know have this certain condition,
get them help.
Get some help, yes indeed. And have a good friends, because good friends will always be there through the good and bad and all those poor times. Anyways, thank you very much, Matiara, for being here with us. It is such a lovely discussion, by the way. We get a lot of knowledge and information in regards to this condition. But right now, we're up for another break. When we return, we'll have more updates, including the world headlines. So go anywhere.
Thank you so much.
Welcome back to Spotlight, ladies and gentlemen, where we bring you guys some of the sports that you guys can go play here in Indonesia.
Handball karena masih baru tadi kita harus bisa juga mempopulerkan ini kepada masyarakat sampai ke bawah.
We do it from scratch at the time because we don't know ice hockey, how to play, how to develop, how to manage this sport.
You don't have to be good with your foot. Like, you can just dribble the ball and just throw it to the full ball.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
The beauty and the excitement of being there.
Indescribable through such an iconic, historical, and magnificent.
Let's take a look around, shall we? Come on in. We found them.
Where people come and go.
A cup of tea, a perfect way to end your day. Come see the beauty only on Indonesia.
Bahkan brosurnya aja Pak, saya udah pelan-pelanin jalan. Ditegur, Mas cepetan gitu. Dia bisa baca perilaku kamu. Sekarang kita mau baca tarot nggak? Iya.
Oh iya, Sir.
Sama mana tangan kamu?
Keren banget. Mau, Om.
A group of volunteers operating in south of the city has united to assist displaced children in a refugee camp in Rafah in overcoming the trauma of war. The volunteers come from diverse professional backgrounds and share expertise in working with young people.
Berangkat aja dulu, kerjakan apa yang ada di depan kalian. Setidaknya kalian hari ini walaupun tidak mendapatkan uang, tapi kalian mendapatkan kesempatan.
Walaupun di awal-awal itu banyak sekali rintangan dan tantangan.
Kalian berproses aja dulu, jalan aja dulu. Kalau udah waktunya kalian untuk dapetin uang akan datang nyamperin kalian. Hal yang paling sangat utama untuk mengawali bisnis, ridho dan restu orang tua. Itu hal dan modal paling besar dalam mengawali usaha.
Hey there, buddies! Welcome back to another episode of Buddy Talk.
Enggak, dia hostnya, kita co-hostnya.
It's better to be overdressed than underdressed. That's actually a good hack, because I used to live in Canada. That was our trick. Point to Manado on the smash. I'm horrible. I told you I'm bad.
Dikira dengan banyaknya informasi itu kan jadi makin gampang gitu nulis.
Iya.
Tapi ternyata susah banget.
About you that makes me indulge in the company of your own kind.
A group of volunteers operating in south of the city has united to assist displaced children in a refugee camp in Rafah in overcoming the trauma of war. The volunteers come from diverse professional backgrounds and share expertise in working with young people.
Welcome back to the C Morning Show, everyone. As mentioned prior to the break, we've got some world news to share with you. Volunteers at a cemetery in Rafah are reopening old graves to find room to bury the dead as Israeli attacks on southern Gaza continues to rack up more casualties.
Jalal Abu Hasna watched as a team of volunteers laid his granddaughter's niece and cousin to rest an old tomb in the cemetery that dates back to 1980s.
His 4 relatives were killed on Monday when a shell hit their town in Khan Yunis. Abu Hasna transported their bodies south to the East Rafah cemetery so they could be laid to rest away from conflict in the front lines.
Khan Yunis has recently become one of the front lines of the conflict between Israeli forces and Hamas militants in Gaza. Moreover, one of the cemetery's volunteers, Saeed Sheikh El Aid, said that some of the larger tombs can fit up to 17 bodies.
أنا حابب أدفنهم في قبر كل واحد لحال، لكن كثرة الشهداء والمصاب الجلل أدى إلى دفنهم في قبر جماعي.
فيش وسع والمكان ضيق وهاي زي ما انتم شايفين يعني الفساقي عارينا بلغتنا اللي هي المقابر الجماعيه بيقولوا عنها بلغتنا فساقي واخر ناس استشهدوا قبل 4 ايام انا وجماعتي من شيخ العيد ودار كلاب ودار مسامح 17 شهيد الاربع اللي فات وفي اللي قبلهم هاي اخواننا كمان دار ابو لشين اللي على المعبر انضربوا كمان حوالي مش عارف 17 او 13 العدد وهنا فاتحين مقابر جديده كمان عشان لا قدر الله صار في شهداء في شيء يكون لانه فيش وسع جماعي بال10 وبال15 اللي بيستشهدوا.
So it seems that more stories have appeared to light as the event has reached more than 100 days. It is now known that it seems to be known what Benjamin Netanyahu's motivation is in prolonging the war, because actually he is still currently under the shadow of bribery, fraud, and breach of trust charges since 2019, which leads him to actually write the far-right coalition in his political party that is consisted of 2 Zionist party, which believes in the depopulation of Gaza. And this is the reasons why Benjamin Netanyahu is very adamant to continue the attack on Gaza, even though the United States has asked Netanyahu to slow down and to think about the post-war solution, right? In addition to try to maintain his political party that is consisted of Zionists, Benjamin Netanyahu, as I've mentioned before, was also charged in 2019 for bribery and fraud, and this is still currently going on. So he was actually seeking for his prime minister position to seek for immunity. And what happened if he stops the war is that he would be more open to these charges, and then he would potentially lose the immunity. And before this, it would still be okay because there are still some alignment with Biden administration. But now the U.S. is also facing the campaign in November, and we know that Biden has been losing trust from the people of the United States, the support, and what they currently do right now is to try to sort of change the narratives of the U.S. that is becoming the main ally for Israel to start thinking about the post-war solution. They started to propose the 2-state of Gaza, of Palestine and Israel to coexist. which is still currently rejected by Benjamin Netanyahu because he wanted to still maintain his position in his party. So I think in the coming future, in the coming months, the conversation in the politic realm will be revolving around how Benjamin Netanyahu and Biden conversing towards this matter in terms of the ceasefire, but also the potential post-war solutions for the people of the Palestine.
Yeah, and there's also has been news circulating, especially from the media in Israel, saying that there could be a potential of civil war between the people in Israel itself. I mean, there's a lot of the Israel civilians right now do not want this war. All they want is just those that is still right now under Hamas or those that was abducted to be released by them. They don't want no more war. They just want their loved ones to come back home. So again, Netanyahu, as you were mentioned, yes, I mean, he still has his programs and he still has a lot of agenda, but he's losing a lot of support from his own people. And you were touching base about United States and its election too. In regards to this, we're going to have an update with that. But right now, we're going to Hindus across Indian cities where they celebrated the opening of a controversial temple built on the ruins of a razed historic mosque on Monday.
The temple is dedicated to Hinduism, Lord Ram, and sits on a site in the northern city of Ayodhya, where Hindu mobs tore down a mosque 3 decades ago.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi opened the temple on Monday morning while seeking to transform the country from a secular democracy into a Hindu state.
Millions tuned in across India to watch the opening of a vast Hindu temple on Monday. The ceremony is considered to be the crowning moment for Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Hindu nationalist ambitions months before he seeks to win a rare third term in elections. The inauguration of the Ram Janmabhoomi Mandir, a temple devoted to Lord Ram in northern India's Ayodhya, is more than 30 years in the making and is expected to give a major boost to Modi's election campaign. However, its fraught history is still an open wound for many Muslims who have increasingly come under attack by Hindu nationalist groups. Some see the temple as the biggest example of the rise of Hindu supremacy under Modi's tenure. Meanwhile, Hindu devotees said that they hoped the temple would bring peace to all communities.
I think it's a good opportunity, I think, to view it as a way of making peace. And I think the temple will have a very calming effect. So people from all communities can go there, feel the peace. I think it will improve the situation.
Officials say the temple will be open to the public after the ceremony, and they expect 100,000 devotees to visit daily. It is built at an estimated cost of $217 million and spread over nearly 3 hectares. The temple lies atop the debris of the 16th century Babri Mosque, which was razed to the ground in 1992 by Hindu mobs. They believed it was built on temple ruins marking the birthplace of Lord Ram. The mosque's demolition triggered bloody riots across India, which killed 2,000 people, mostly Muslims. The dispute ended in 2019 when India's Supreme Court called the mosque destruction an egregious violation of the law but granted the site to Hindus while giving Muslims a different plot of land.
And from India, we're going to move on to Europe, where at least 2 were killed and thousands left without power as a severe winter storm struck the UK and Ireland.
The country's weather service said resilience remains low as the storm continues.
Meteorologists warns that extreme weather patterns will remain in the region for some time to come.
Stormy skies and stormy seas have been a common sight in the UK already this winter. Storm Isha, which brought heavy rain and wind gusts topping 160 kilometers an hour, is the 9th named storm this season.
So this has been an extraordinary wind season. The windstorm season begins in September. So September 2023, we started to see storms brew in the Atlantic. So now we're in January, we're up to the 9th named storm, which is quite rare, unusual, yes, and it has really impacted the UK in terms of how much rain we've seen and also wind damage. And as I speak, another storm has now just been named, this time by the Irish Met Service.
Storm Jocelyn, named by the Irish forecaster Met Éireann, is due to bring more wind and rain on Tuesday and Wednesday local time. But forecasters say it doesn't necessarily mean UK winters will always witness such frequent and severe storms. Parts of the UK have been hammered since fall by a series of gusty and wet storms and have toppled trees, knocked out power, and led to flooding along river valleys. The railway operator for Scotland halted train service on Sunday night and into Monday's rush hour. In the west of Ireland, counties Donegal, Galway and Mayo were warned of extremely strong and possibly destructive gusts from Sunday afternoon into the morning. People were told to stay away from the coast.
Well, for the winter, especially for the winter holidays, Europe has been the destination. We've seen there's a lot of people going to UK, Paris, you know, Italy, you name it, all about it in Europe. And I see still of our friends are still right there as of current. But again, winter is really nice because it is a winter wonderland. It's, you know, very white winter celebration, but it comes with a price. Now with extreme weather like this causing a travel catastrophe, you mentioned with us a couple of, I think it was like a couple of weeks ago, you were mentioning how you were stuck on your plane for a couple of hours because, you know,
the de-icing procedure never ended for like 4 hours.
Right? Yeah. And that happened also right now in Heathrow. There's just a lot of commotion right now. Passengers has been affected. There's delayed or canceled with their flights. Heathrow, London City and Gatwick airports were some of the worst hit by the storm. British Airways scrapped further than 28 departures and arrivals on Sunday, top of 36 previously announced on that day. Dublin and Ireland airports said the extreme weather was posing a significant challenge. And finally, on Sunday, the travel hub had canceled 114 flights and diverted 36 to other airports. One arrival from Lanzarote was forced to reroute to Bordeaux. This is not only planes, it goes to rail transportation also. On Monday, Network Rail had operates more network in the UK imposed a 50 miles per hour speed limits across almost all routes, so all this train needs to be more slower because of the extreme weather. Network Rail also operates and imposed all the speed limits. Scotland train services were halted on Sunday night and throughout most of Monday morning. Several ferries are also stopped for crossing from from places to places. And it seems that right now these extreme weather will be going on for a couple of days. The name of the storm, though, I love it, is Isha and Jocelyn. These bad girls are still hot on the heels because there's more heavy rains and also strong winds in the coming days.
Wow. Right. There you go. We've got more updates out of the U.S. for you now. On the political front, where the small northeastern U.S. state of New Hampshire conducted its presidential primary on Tuesday.
That's right. The primary is set to be hotly contested after Florida Governor Ron DeSantis ended his campaign to make the race a two-person Republican contest.
And now to find out more, let's take a look at the following story by VOA's Caroline Prasuti, who explains how the Granite State could turn U.S. politics upside down.
Not what you'd expect to hear hours before a presidential primary. But this is the quirky state of New Hampshire.
Hey, everybody, how are you?
Where President Joe Biden is not on Tuesday's ballot. A move by national Democratic leaders, which some consider a snub.
People said, we're going to put that aside and we're going to support Joe Biden because we all know Donald Trump is going to be the nominee. And the most important thing we can do to save democracy is to stop Donald Trump.
This is from 1992 convention.
Ray Buckley chairs the New Hampshire Democratic Party. But on Tuesday, Biden will not get his vote.
Since my election as chair, I've written in Jimmy Carter every single time to show that I am completely unbiased.
Buckley has voted for Democratic incumbent presidents in the past, but this time
we were in shock and stunned.
The Democratic National Committee demoted New Hampshire from its historic spot as the first state primary in favor of South Carolina, with its more diverse voters. Angry state party officials scheduled the primary anyway.
We are going to the polls on Tuesday.
and Biden supporters began a write-in campaign. On the Republican side, a different kind of drama. In a windy -10 degrees Celsius, this is the line 4 hours before a Donald Trump event.
We love the Trumpster. He fights for us.
How many wars did we have when he was president? Everybody was happy. Everybody was making money.
Former President Donald Trump is pulling in the crowds at his rallies and polling at just over 50% among New Hampshire voters. Former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley is at 35% in the Boston Globe poll.
She needs to sway me, so I'm open-minded to whatever it is she has to say.
Like Denise Montminy, many in line to see Haley are independents or Democrats who can vote on a Republican ballot here.
I'd like to hear a little less war hawkish rhetoric from her in terms of her stance on Ukraine and Israel-Palestine conflict.
Analysts say New Hampshire Republicans who are fiscal conservatives interested in lower taxes and smaller government could be Haley's last chance to stop Trump.
If she can't in a state that is tailor-made for that, I think it's fair to ask, well, what is the next step? What is the state where she will have another chance to beat Trump? And the number of states I can come up with is a very, very, very short one.
On Tuesday night, we find out whether New Hampshire voters offer any surprises. Carolyn Persutti, VOA News, Manchester, New Hampshire.
So the election is very different than we have right here in Indonesia. With the U.S. election, it started from January, when actually we are going to cast our ballots in November. So that's like almost a year that we have to, hear all these campaigns and whatnot. Well, 15th of January, it was the beginning of it all. We know that Iowa Republican caucus was won by Donald Trump. There was Nikki Haley and also Ron DeSantis is trying to topple the former president, but he won in that one. Now today, on 23rd of January, well, rather tonight, a New Hampshire primary. Well, this is going to be the last stop for Nikki Haley if she wants to stop Donald Trump for the Republican, for the Republican frontrunner for this race itself. Now, New Hampshire is Democrats pressing ahead with their primary. Even right now, I haven't seen anyone or any name from the Democratic Party. It's only Joe Biden and Kamala Harris again for the second term. So I really want to see see new faces or new names coming up. But like with the Republican, there's Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley. But from the Democrat, it's just been very silent right now.
Right.
So 23rd of Jan is going to be today in New Hampshire primary, and then South Carolina Democratic primary. This is going to be on 3rd of February, and then 6th of February is going to be Nevada primary. It's more of the Republicans, and we know for Nevada, because my dad lives there, it's all going to win for Donald Trump. Because Donald Trump flag has been there for this past 4 years alone. Yeah. Well, Joe Biden is the current president, but it's still all Donald Trump in Nevada. So we're going to see that all flagging, all red for Donald Trump. And this is all going to go on for these key states until Super Tuesday. That's going to commence on 5th of March. This is going to be a heated competition for the Democrats. So this is Alabama, Arkansas, Alaska, California, Colorado, all blue states. This is going to be on that day. And then finally, we're going to have the presidential debate on 16th of December. Ooh. So it's a really long way to go from January to September. So they are doing their utmost best. But it's likely right now what we're seeing from the Republican Party is Donald Trump. Yep. We're going to see Nikki Haley too. I want to listen to more of her agenda and programs too. And from the Democratic, from the Blue Party is Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And hopefully we see other faces too.
It is really interesting to contrast between the election in the U.S. compared to Indonesia, because if you have a longer timeline to campaign, then people can see this more substance, more consistencies from the candidates, while in Indonesia it's only 4 months or 3 months. So most of the time it's mostly a promotional aspect of the campaign, not really substantive material. And then you cannot also see the consistencies. And I think in the U.S., each candidates have to be chosen by their state, right? So we can see the process from the ground up, as compared to Indonesia, where a political party just nominate like this couples of presidential candidate and the vice presidential candidate. So it's very interesting.
But the downside is, I think if it's a longer campaign or like election period like U.S., there's more swinging votes.
Right.
Because of course, gradually you would think, oh, first I'm going to be with him or her. And then I felt like her programs are more into, what my values are because of that, long period of time.
Right. And not to mention that the dynamics this time around here in Indonesia. There's 3 to choose from as opposed to just the 2. That makes things a little bit more interesting, at least in the first round. We're going to talk more, actually, speaking of which, about the Indonesian elections on the recap during Indonesia Votes. But before that, we have some updates from around Southeast Asia. That's coming up next after this short break.
Their existence is now being critically endangered.
Dia memiliki ekor yang sangat panjang, jauh lebih panjang daripada badannya sendiri.
Tekniknya dia keluar itu bergelombol, menggunakan punggung temannya untuk naik.
Sebenarnya konservasi burung hantu di sini latar belakangnya jelas asas manfaat. Jadi kita pengen melestarikan burung, melestarikan satwa, tapi juga otomatis dampaknya ke masyarakat yang khususnya sekarang kalau di sini kan petani.
Oh, I love this atmosphere. Woo! Heading to Gili Trawangan. And this special episode, I already prepared myself for an adventure on the island, which in the top of the list to visit. And this is the travel note because life is dope.
Welcome back to Spotlight, ladies and gentlemen, where we bring you guys some of the sports that you guys can go play here in Indonesia.
Handball karena masih baru, tadi kita harus bisa juga mempopulerkan ini kepada masyarakat sampai ke bawah.
We do it from scratch at the time because we don't know ice hockey, how to play, how to develop, how to manage this sport.
You don't have to be good with your foot. You can just dribble the ball and just throw it to the full ball.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Asian flavors is gaining more popularity around the world in the last decade. Personally love this, not just because it's familiar for our palate, but because the airiness, the textures of the youtiao, it's completely different than baguette. So with those appetites and with those pleasure-driven people, Menteng is a very special place for restaurant.
A group of volunteers operating in south of the city has united to assist displaced children in a refugee camp in Rafah in overcoming the trauma of war. The volunteers come from diverse professional backgrounds and share expertise in working with young people.
Ke Binjai mau migrasi. Anjay, aku deportasi.
Ya, aku cuma mau bilang hari ini kamu tuh cantik ya.
Aduh ya Allah.
Oke lah kalau penampilan dia nggak sebaik itu, nggak sebagus itu, nggak seganteng itu, tapi itu hatinya dia sebaik itu dan tidak ada orang yang pernah gue temuin hatinya sebaik Mas.
Pemain.
Fisik saya mungkin waktu itu memang lemah, tapi bagi saya fisik itu hanya seberapa persen dari kemampuan kita. Yang penting adalah ide. Di anak-anak muda jangan pernah putus asa.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. It's time for us to kick off this segment with some of the latest headlines from across Southeast Asia. First up, we begin in Vietnam, where the country's Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh met his Romanian counterpart Marcel Ciolacu in Bucharest on Monday. Vietnam is one of Romania's most important partners across the Asia-Pacific, and the two countries are set to mark 75 years of bilateral ties in 2025. In addition, both leaders signed several cooperation agreements on Monday that is set to boost education and training. PM Chinh also took the opportunity to thank Romania for training over 4,000 Vietnamese students and graduates since its independence.
Moving along to Thailand, where Prime Minister Srettha Thavisin addressed concerns regarding the Ranong Chumphon Land Bridge project. He said that the project was a plan that was been on the Thai government's back burner until it was recently revived. It is set to connect locations across the Andaman Sea with the Gulf of Thailand. It was first introduced in 2005 by then Prime Minister Thaksin, but was scrapped after he was ousted in a military coup.
And lastly, from Cambodia, where the country's mine authority met with the Chinese Foreign Affairs Ministry to sign a memorandum of understanding to boost demining efforts. The Chinese also formally handed 300 tons, 90 demining machines, 20 laptops, and 20 tablets to the Cambodian Mine Authority. In response, Mine Authority Vice President Lee Touch said that the MOUs is very important since it aligns with Hun Manet's vision for national demining.
And next up, we have the latest update from Malaysia, where the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, or MAAC, has revealed that a long list of individuals is expected to be summoned for an investigation regarding the mismanagement and procurement of government vehicles worth of 4.5 billion ringgits.
The list includes former finance minister and a businessman with the title Tan Sri, who will be called to help shed light on two issues. MAAC Chief Commissioner Tan Sri Azam said that the former minister will be asked to explain the reasons behind the cancellations of government contracts with a company that already received a letter of intent. He is also expected to provide information as to why the project was transferred to another company.
The list of names was put together after the Bureau conducted a series of searches on the unspecified businessman's home last Thursday. 4 companies are allegedly involved, one of which was responsible for supplying vehicles to the government. The MAAC said that they aim to obtain documents in order to determine a potential case of corruption. Sources also added that the unspecified businessman was at home during the search.
In response, the suspect company claimed to have been selected to manage the project through a letter of intent in 2018. However, it was terminated before the official announcement. The company has since taken legal action against the government.
All right, that wraps up our Southeast Asia segment. We're going for a quick break now, but in the meantime, stay connected with us at See Today News on Instagram, X, and YouTube. We'll be right back.
The beauty and the excitement of being there.
Indescribable to be such an iconic, historical, and magnificent.
Let's take a look around, shall we? Come on in. We found them.
Where people come and go. A cup of tea, a perfect way to end your day. Come see the beauty, only on See Indonesia.
Fisik saya mungkin waktu itu memang lemah, tapi bagi saya fisik itu hanya seberapa persen dari kemampuan kita. Yang penting adalah ide. Di anak-anak muda jangan pernah putus asa.
Hey there, buddies! Welcome back to another episode of Buddy Talk.
Enggak, dia hostnya, kita co-hostnya.
It's better to be overdressed than underdressed. That's actually a good hack, because I used to live in Canada. That was our trick. Point to Manado on this map. I'm horrible. I told you I'm bad.
Dikira dengan banyaknya informasi itu kan jadi makin gampang gitu nulisnya.
Iya.
Tapi ternyata susah banget. About you that makes me indulge in the company of your own kind.
All right, guys, let's get into our first update for today.
Meanwhile, a plume of smoke was seen billowing in the distance from Rafah in the Gaza Strip on Saturday, marking the 11th week of humanitarian crisis in Palestine.
Mount Anak Krakatau continues to erupt, spewing volcanic materials up to 300 meters high.
Sri Mulyani Indrawati said that Indonesia has minimized taking debt to meet the needs of the 2023 state budget until the end of the year.
Their existence is now being critically endangered.
Dia memiliki ekor yang sangat panjang, jauh lebih panjang daripada badannya sendiri.
Tekniknya dia itu bergelombol, menggunakan punggung temannya untuk naik.
Sebenarnya konservasi burung hantu di sini latar belakangnya jelas asas manfaat. Jadi kita pengen melestarikan burung, melestarikan satwa, tapi juga otomatis dampaknya ke masyarakat yang khususnya sekarang kalau di sini kan petani.
Oh, I love this atmosphere. Woo! Heading to Gili Trawangan. And this special episode, I already prepared myself for an adventure on the island, which in the top of the list to visit. And this is the travel note because life is dope.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Hey, guess what? It's time for some viral news on our segment, Viral News of the Week. So we're going to recap some of our news that have gone viral so far this year. And first up, we have a wedding that had gone viral for its very unique concept, which features an eco-friendly concept where dishes are served on these rattan containers, locally known as, I don't know if I'm even going to say this right, besek, is that what it's called?
Besek?
Besek, I think so. So this 42-second video shows an eco-friendly wedding that took place in Yogyakarta. The wedding involved East Java musician Iksan Scooter. Guests can minimize food and packaging waste thanks to the use of their sustainable materials. Now, these dishes, as you will see, are served in these rattan bowls and wrapped with banana leaves. And guests can also dispose of the waste in rattan bins, which are split to accommodate between organic and inorganic waste. The video was originally posted on TikTok and had garnered more than 2 million views. Let's have a look.
It could be an idea, by the way.
Yeah. So look at this, like this, that'd be a beautiful wedding, by the way.
Yes. Oh, nasi liwet.
Very traditional.
Yes.
And I think having used these rattan, and I don't know how many of our viewers are familiar with Indonesian culture, but you mentioned, Caroline, that the rattan containers and plates are often used in
Yes.
restaurants anyway.
Yes. And events too, but never on a wedding. I never saw this on a wedding before.
Very cool.
But it's such an eco-friendly wedding that this should be a role model, because if they can do it, we can, you know, for those, not we, some of those are
not anymore.
Wedding.
By the way, it's because you guys didn't attend my wedding. We had rattan plates.
Yeah, oh, you did?
So, but it was from the restaurant. That was their concept.
Right.
Yeah, it was a restaurant in Kemang. We used rattan plates.
Right.
And the banana leaf
as
the lining for the plates as well.
So this was like, what, 10?
Oh, it was a long time ago.
So you're the OG. You're the OG environment.
That's right.
I mean, kudos to the restaurant, the venue that provided that, because that was their concept. They had a very Indonesian concept to it. But, you know, going back to, if we think back to weddings that we've attended, especially some of these super grand weddings, you know, the ones that take place in Surabaya for the crazy rich. I think I can only imagine how much food waste there is there, because there's just so much on the buffet. Not to mention if they have these plastic cups that people are using, and you're not only going to drink one, you're going to keep going back and you're going to get new cups. So what a great concept, and very nice that it had gone viral, because it will make, I guess it'll bring awareness to those.
That's right. I think it just goes to show that you have choices for your marriage, for your wedding, not only, you know, having it on a grand ballroom, just like you mentioned, Paul, but actually like with a nice concept, it can actually feels more intimate and authentic like this one. So.
This one has a lot of information too in regards to, you know, like saving the environment and whatnot. But I remember when I was,
that's right.
It's there?
Yeah.
But the
own theme.
Yeah. But the culture here, because this is what my mom told me when we were going to hold our wedding in Jakarta, she's like, you don't have to worry about anything, not the design, it's not your dress. it's more about the food. Because if people know that you're lacking the food or the food doesn't taste good, they're going to talk about it. So my mom was very adamant about the food. We cannot have like limited, like the food has to be
have enough.
Yes.
Yes.
Not more, but enough for the people. Then people won't say like they don't have any more food left.
Yes.
I'm like, Mom, like I'm thinking about my dress. But anyways, all right. So we have another viral news. This one comes from India. This is the first viral news program of 2024, right, for us?
I believe so, for us anyway.
All right. So this one is really interesting because there's an old man came back to life after the ambulance that carried him struck a pothole. So we're going to talk about this. This miracle took place at a village in Haryana and involved 80-year-old man called Darhan Singh Brar, who suffered from years of heart disease. Prior to his alleged death and revival, he laid weak in the hospital as doctors used ventilators for 4 days. Doctors then confirmed his death, leading his family to gather at his residence. They had prepared food for guests and set up for his cremation. Neighbors also gathered to mourn his passing. Meanwhile, Darhan was taken from the hospital to his residence by ambulance through a road full of potholes. Little they didn't know that Darhan would defeat death. Excuse me about this, because I'm just putting this in my mind right now. I know. When the vehicle hit a particularly deep pothole during that time. Can you continue?
Absolutely. Darhan's fingers suddenly actually moved, and he returned to join us, the living.
Oh my God.
The doctor then confirmed that Darhan had indeed bamboozled death. The doctor then examined this Indian cousin of Jason Voorhees, and just to make sure he was still alive. By the way, thank you to our scriptwriters for Jason Voorhees. Are you familiar with that reference? From Friday the 13th. It's about this mass murder that keeps coming back to life after they kill him.
When I see the picture of him laying on his hospital, I felt so sad.
Yeah, but then it's like, hey, no, honestly, when I first saw this, I didn't believe it. Because I did see it on social media.
Right.
And I was like, oh, this is what they mean. Never believe everything you see on social media. But then it was actually announced by news outlets, and I'm like, oh, this really happened.
Because it's been verified.
It was verified by the doctors.
Oh
so
my God.
good for him. There you go, guys.
He doesn't need those, what do you call them?
Yeah, the resuscitator, whatever, those electric resuscitators.
But this is so unique because this is like very rare occurrence.
Yes.
Right? And you don't hear this often.
Right, and we were just hearing one of the presidential candidates complaining about potholes in the road. I just thought of one benefit, just one benefit of that particular case having a...
But I felt happy for his loved ones, though.
Yes.
That he's revived back.
Yeah. The funeral was ready, by the way. The mourners were there.
If I was the one, I'll be shocked. Well, I'll be mad at with the doctors, right? Well, you said that he passed away, but you bring him back home and he's alive.
It was literally announced that he had...
Well, good thing that he has his funeral ready for when he's like...
Wow.
I mean, like, it's an investment, right? Like, one last thing
Save it
to
for
be
later.
organized. Exactly, save it for
so
later.
I'm just thinking, I'm putting in my imagination, like, it goes bump like that.
Yeah.
It's just step back.
And good thing the van had some bad drivers that could not avoid a pothole.
Well, wishing him a great long life.
Yes, 1 in a million.
Yes.
All right.
Not now.
We are going to move on to our next video where this took place just a few days ago and went viral after garnering 27.5 million views. Let's take a look. So this is certainly a video that can raise the hair on the back of your neck. Ambulance drivers often have many unique stories. Just take our last story as an example. But not all their stories are upbeat tales of overcoming death. Some are way more spooky. Now, in this video that went viral on the TikTok account at David Ambulance, the voice of a woman reciting Surah Yasin can be heard with no one around. Some initially thought that the voice came from the tape playing on the ambulance, but it was actually not. The ambulance driver said that he heard Surah Yasin verses 20 to 27 being recited. This makes the ambulance driver hopeful that something good will come to him and his family.
Wait, I can hear it.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, there it is. Anyone here familiar with the verses that's being recited?
Yeah.
I heard it's actually a good wish for work.
It is.
Yeah, it is a good wish.
For?
For work.
For work.
For work life.
It's interesting.
Yeah, and what makes it even more spooky is because it's at night.
Yeah.
And with no one around.
I just in disbelief that he's still driving. If it was me, I would hit the brakes. If I knew it wasn't coming from the radio or anything that is played upon.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think, like, of all the possibilities. For example, one thing that's happened to me before, actually a couple of things have happened to me before. The first one would be impossible, but at like 4 a.m. when I wake up for the show, sometimes I hear, "Hi, you're my best friend."
From
a little kid's voice. Turns out it's one of my kids' toys in the cabinet that's gone off, right? But that freaked me out because I thought of Chucky right away. The second thing is sometimes we accidentally hit a butt dial. Well, sometimes we press our phone on something that had been playing from before. This happens to me all the time. So I was watching a YouTube video, listening to a podcast, and suddenly I'm hearing, what's that voice? And it's actually me setting off my phone by accident. Could be that.
Yeah. You're trying to put this into like the
rationalize it,
right?
I'm trying to find
it. But we could hear the voice.
And in this case, that he mentioned that it was not from a tape. Obviously, then it was not from his phone. So I think he was conveying that it is actually something else that is reciting the verses.
Yes. Well, I'm a part of that. Not believing because especially in coming from my faith, that we have to believe that it is created, right?
Yes.
But I like to rationalize things. I do not want to, right? And sometimes...
You know how much you love the supernatural.
No, I know. Because you were mentioning about your kids' dolls.
Yes.
Right? That always sometimes happens to me too, because we have to wake up early in the morning at 3 o'clock, 2:30. You come in, I went out from my room, and then, and there's this space in front of my kids' room, and this particular toy...
It's always that one.
Always on whenever I came out. Like, doesn't necessarily have to be on that certain time.
Yes.
But whenever I'm like kind of moving around, I'm trying to like, taking stuff out from the table and everything, it always turns on. So I told my kids, I'm going to throw away this toy because it's broken. Because at night, it's always on. They're like, no, Mommy, we still like to play it. But I think eventually, without them knowing it, I'm going to throw it away because it's just scary. It never turns on because you need to there's a dial. No, there's a button.
Push a button.
There's a button, and then it will turn on. So it only turns on for me at 3:30 in the morning.
It knows you're awake.
I know. It's Paw Patrol, by the way. Paw Patrol saves your day.
At least yours doesn't say, "Hi, you're my best friend." That one's a little freaky as well. Anyway, that wraps up some of the viral news that had taken place for us so far early this year in 2024. And that also wraps up viral news of the week. We're going to take another short break. But in case you joined us late, we're going to recap some of our earlier stories for you when we return.
Welcome back to Spotlight, ladies and gentlemen, where we bring you guys some of the sports that you guys can go play here in Indonesia.
Handball karena masih baru, tadi kita harus bisa juga mempopulerkan ini kepada masyarakat sampai ke bawah.
We do it from scratch at the time because we don't know ice hockey, how to play, how to develop, how to manage this sport.
You don't have to be good with your foot. Like, you can just dribble the ball and just throw it to the full ball.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
The beauty and the excitement of being there.
Indescribable to lose such an iconic, historical, and magnificent.
Let's take a look around, shall we? Come on in.
We found them.
Well, people come and go. A cup of tea, a perfect way to end your day. Come to the beauty, only on Indonesia.
Bahkan brosurnya aja, Pak, saya udah pelan-pelanin jalan. Ditegur, Mas, cepetan gitu. Dia bisa baca perilaku kamu. Sekalian kita mau baca tarot nggak? Iya.
Oh iya, Sa.
Mana tangan kamu?
Keren banget, mau Om.
Berangkat aja dulu, kerjakan apa yang ada di depan kalian. Setidaknya kalian hari ini walaupun tidak mendapatkan uang, tapi kalian mendapatkan kesempatan.
Walaupun di awal-awal itu banyak sekali rintangan dan tantangan.
Kalian berproses aja dulu, jalan aja dulu. Kalau udah waktunya kalian untuk dapetin uang akan datang nyamperin kalian. Hal yang paling sangat utama untuk mengawali bisnis, ridho dan restu orang tua. Itu hal dan modal paling besar dalam mengawali usaha.
Hey there, buddies! Welcome back to another episode of Buddy Talk.
Enggak. Dia hostnya, kita co-hostnya.
It's better to be overdressed than underdressed. That's actually a good hack, because I used to live in Canada. That was our trick. Point to Manado on this map. I'm horrible. I told you I'm bad.
Dikira dengan banyaknya informasi itu kan jadi makin gampang gitu nulis.
Iya.
Tapi ternyata susah banget.
Their existence is now being critically endangered.
Dia memiliki ekor yang sangat panjang, lebih panjang, jauh lebih panjang daripada badannya sendiri.
Tekniknya dia keluar dia itu bergelombol, menggunakan punggung temannya untuk naik.
Sebenarnya konservasi burung hantu di sini latar belakangnya jelas asas manfaat. Jadi kita pengen melestarikan burung, melestarikan satwa, tapi juga otomatis dampaknya ke masyarakat yang khususnya sekarang kalau di sini kan petani.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the C Morning Show. Now, as Paul mentioned, we're going to review some of the news, and in this segment we're going to recap updates regarding the upcoming Indonesian general election on Indonesia Votes 2024. Vice presidential candidate number 1, Muhaimin Iskandar, attended the consolidation of a Quran study congregation leadership in Depok, West Java on Monday afternoon. Muhaimin promised that he will help women achieve their dreams should he become the country's next vice president. Women made up the majority of attendees. Not just that, Muhaimin or Cak Imin welcomed a declaration of support from the Depok Quran Study congregation leadership on Monday afternoon. He also promised that he will help women achieve and realize their dreams such as economic empowerment and boosting women's capacity and skills. He welcomed support from the attendees and said that he will squander the trust that he has received.
Kajian yang terus berpikir butuh solusi pemberdayaan ekonomi, solusi pemberdayaan kemampuan kapasitas building, dan berbagai hal. Yang ini memang harus diperhatikan. Sehingga bagi kami dukungan semua itu adalah amanah untuk men-follow up seluruh harapan-harapan dan cita-cita mereka. Sekaligus kepercayaan, terima kasih, ini menjadi bagian dari penambah kemenangan amin.
And leading presidential candidate number 2, Prabowo Subianto, held a grand campaign at a restaurant in Bekasi, West Java on Monday afternoon. During the occasion, he spoke in front of hundreds of meatball and chicken noodle vendors, as well as MSME owners. He also promised that he will elevate the welfare of the impoverished if he becomes the next president of Indonesia. During his speech, Prabowo said that he visited Bekasi since he loves the city and its residents. He also said that he favors the impoverished over smart or educated individuals with malicious intent. The presidential candidate added that Indonesia do not need intellectuals. It needs compassionate people instead who do not twist and mix words. Aside from that, Prabowo lifted the atmosphere when he prayed for the children of meatball vendors to grow up and become engineers, business owners, and government officials. He also promised that he will pay attention to public welfare and work for the best interests of Indonesia alongside his team of competent experts.
Saya bersumpah untuk membela bangsa dan rakyat saya. Dari sejak muda, saya tidak punya apa-apa. Saya siap memberi jiwa dan raga saya untuk negara dan bangsa. Karena itu, saya tidak rela melihat di ujung karir saya, melihat masih ada rakyat Indonesia yang hidupnya susah. Saya tidak rela. Dan karena itu, saya bertekad untuk terus berjuang untuk rakyat Indonesia.
And let's move on to presidential candidate number 3, Ganjar Pranowo, who recently met with thousands of his supporters at the Gelora Delta Sidoarjo Stadium in East Java. He asked them to vote for him and his running mate Mahfud MD on February 14. He is also identified that East Java as one of his election strongholds. During his his visit, Ganjar Pranowo praised his supporters for their enthusiasm, especially since East Java is one of his election strongholds, which he expects to land a significant number of votes. He attended the event alongside his wife Siti Atikoh, Puan Maharani, Yeni Wahid, and Hari Tanu Sudibyo. They urged the crowd to vote for Ganjar and his running mate Mahfud on February 14. Aside from campaigning, Ganjar is also set to continue pulling public aspiration through various means, including by staying in people's homes.
Sebenarnya maunya di seluruh kabupaten kota, tapi tidak memungkinkan. Maka hari ini kita di Sidoarjo. Mungkin di kesempatan berikutnya akan di kota lain. Tapi yang jelas kekuatan dari Jawa Timur memang menjadi energi besar buat Ganjar Mahfud. Dan inilah teman-teman dari seluruh partai pengusung, mereka full tim untuk bisa hadir ke sini. Jadi pilihannya bisa dimanapun. Optimis sekali, maka ini pertunjukan ya dari Bandung maupun Sidoarjo. Masyarakat begitu antusias datang dan itu menunjukkan kepada kita semuanya bahwa energi di Jabar dan di Jawa Timur begitu tinggi untuk Ganjar Mahfud.
Meanwhile, the distribution of the general election logistics for voters abroad continues to be conducted ahead of the election on February 14. Meanwhile, the equipment have arrived in Milan, Italy. However, the committee expressed concern of the lack of logistics as many new voters are late to register due to their residents being far from the capital.
The election is about to come, and here the Indonesian diaspora already received their ballot from the election committee in Rome. And they are really excited about this, and let's see what they say and what they hope about this period election.
Ini dia surat suaraku.
The Indonesian diaspora in Italy have received ballots from the Overseas Election Committee in Rome for those who wish to vote by mail.
02, 03, rahasia. Akhirnya nyampe nih surat suaraku yang aku tunggu-tunggu. Ada 2 amplop, satu untuk DPR RI, satu lagi untuk Presiden dan Wakil Presiden. Kami diaspora mengharapkan pemilu tahun ini berlangsung dengan jujur, damai, dan transparan. Salam dari Itali. Ciao, ciao.
Meanwhile, Overseas Election Chairwoman in Rome, Ms. Din, said that there is a large number of new students in Italy who have just registered. Therefore, there is a large gap between the ballots that have already arrived and the new young voters.
Daftar pemilih tetap pada Panitia Pemilihan Luar Negeri PPLN KBRI Roma yang meliputi negara Italia, Siprus, dan Malta terdiri dari 1.802 calon pemilih yang terbagi menjadi tempat pemungutan suara luar negeri KBRI Roma sejumlah 624 calon pemilih, kotak suara keliling 01 Milan sejumlah 307 calon pemilih, kotak suara negara Siprus sejumlah 61 calon pemilih, kotak suara keliling 03 negara Malta sejumlah 212 calon pemilih, dan pemilih pos sejumlah 598. Daftar pemilih tambahan tempat pemungutan suara KBRI Roma berjumlah 84 calon pemilih, kotak suara keliling 01 Milan sejumlah 172 calon pemilih, kotak suara keliling 02 negara Siprus jumlah 6 calon pemilih, kotak suara keliling negara Malta sejumlah 34 pemilih, dan pemilih pos jumlah 14 calon pemilih. Total daftar pemilih tambahan PPLN KBRI Roma tahun 2024 berjumlah 310 pemilih.
Ms. Din said that she was concerned about the logistics of the additional ballots, as the committee only has 7 additional ballots. Meanwhile, the total number of ballots needed is 310. The large number of additional voters in Italy was caused by the arrival of new students coming in September of the 2023-2024 academic year.
Rizka Wulandari reporting for See Today from Italy.
All right, that does it for our General Election 2024 update. We are going for a quick break, but after that, Paul will return with a recap from the world of sports. Keep it right here on the C Morning Show, only on See Today.
Their existence is now being critically endangered.
Dia memiliki ekor yang sangat panjang, lebih panjang, jauh lebih panjang daripada badannya sendiri.
Tekniknya dia keluar dia itu bergelombol, menggunakan punggung temannya untuk naik.
Sebenarnya konservasi burung hantu di sini latar belakangnya jelas asas manfaat. Jadi kita pengen melestarikan burung, melestarikan satwa, tapi juga otomatis dampaknya ke masyarakat yang khususnya sekarang kalau di sini kan petani.
Oh, I love this atmosphere. Heading to Gili Trawangan. And this special episode, I already prepared myself for an adventure on the island, which in the top of the list to visit. And this is the travel note because life is dope.
Welcome back to Spotlight, ladies and gentlemen, where we bring you guys some of the sports that you guys can go play here in Indonesia.
Handball karena masih baru, tadi kita harus bisa juga mempopulerkan ini kepada masyarakat sampai ke bawah.
We do it from scratch at the time because we don't know ice hockey, how to play, how to develop, how to manage this sport.
Yeah, you don't have to be good with your foot. Like, you can just dribble the ball and just throw it to the full ball.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Flavors is gaining more popularity around the world in the last decade. Personally love this, not just because it is familiar for our palate, but because the airiness, the textures of the youtiao, it's completely different when baguette. So with those appetites and with those pleasure-driven people, Menteng is a very special place for restaurant.
A group of volunteers operating in the south of the city has united to assist displaced children in a refugee camp in Rafa in overcoming the trauma of war. The volunteers come from diverse professional backgrounds and share expertise in working with young people.
Fisik saya mungkin waktu itu memang lemah, tapi bagi saya fisik itu hanya seberapa persen dari kemampuan kita. Yang penting adalah ide. Bagi anak-anak muda, jangan pernah putus asa.
Kak Binjai mau migrasi.
Cakep.
Anjay, aku depotsi.
Ya, aku cuma mau bilang hari ini kamu tuh cantik loh. Aduh ya Allah.
Oke lah kalau penampilan dia nggak sebaik itu, nggak sebagus itu, nggak seganteng itu, tapi itu hatinya dia sebaik itu dan tidak ada orang yang pernah gue temuin hatinya sebaik Maris.
Pemain.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the C Morning Show for a quick sports recap. Thai teenager Agnese Campiol made history on Monday when she won silver in the women's monobob category of the 2024 Gangwon Winter Youth Olympics. The 17-year-old became the first Thai athlete to ever win a medal at a Winter Olympic event. Thai bobsledder Agnese Campiol earned the silver medal at the women's monobob category, and in doing so becomes the first Thai and Southeast Asian athlete to ever win a Winter Youth Olympic medal. This marks the third time a tropical nation has won a Winter Youth Olympic medal, following Colombia's silver medal in 2020 and Brazil's bronze in 2024. Thailand competed at the 2024 Winter Youth Olympics in Gangwon, South Korea, which is ongoing from January the 19th to February the 1st. This was Thailand's second appearance at a Winter Youth Olympic Games after competing for the very first time in 2020. The fourth Winter Youth Olympic Games is currently taking place in Gangwon, South Korea, which also hosted the 2018 Pyeongchang Olympic Winter Games. The Winter Youth Olympic Games in Asia are set to build on the Olympic Games legacy and engage even more of the youth through various activities. And from South Korea, we go to the land down under for some tennis updates where Alexander Zverev pulled through a dramatic 5-set triumph against Cameron Norrie to book his spot in the quarterfinals at the Australian Open. Alexander Zverev held his nerve in a deciding set tiebreak in a roller coaster match full of twists and turns. This improves his record to 8-1 down under this season. Zverev mixed big serves with consistent baseline play to barely hold off Norrie's spirited charge. On the other hand, his UK opponent frequently came to the net or deployed drop shots to try to disrupt Zverev's rhythm. The German decisively raised his level in the deciding tiebreak, and he won 8 of the final 9 points in the match for a 4-hour, 5-minute victory. This has now earned Zverev a spot in the quarterfinals at Melbourne Park, where he will be taking on second-seeded Carlos Alcaraz in his hunt for his first Grand Slam title. And speaking of Zverev's next opponent, Spaniard Carlos Alcaraz defeated his Serbian counterpart Miomir Kecmanovic 6-4, 6-4, and 6-love at the Rod Laver Arena in Melbourne on Monday. He is next set to face Zverev in the quarterfinals. World number 2 Carlos Alcaraz will pose a challenge for Alexander Zverev in the quarterfinals as the Spaniard steamrolled Miomir Kecmanovic in the 4th round. Alcaraz was in extraordinary form at Rod Laver Arena, stunning both fans and commentators with his sheer athleticism and left his opponent with no answers. His athleticism and power were on full display in the early stages of the match, where he slammed winners from what most players would deem as regular rally balls. The Spaniard has now secured a quarterfinal spot in every major tournament at just 20 years old. Moving on to some basketball news from the NBA, where the Los Angeles Lakers got back to their winning ways after defeating the Portland Trailblazers 132-110 at the Crypto.com Arena. Anthony Davis scored a double-double in this one. The Los Angeles Lakers finally secured a win and now have a record of 22-22. They secured their 22nd victory after defeating the Portland Trailblazers 134-110 at the Crypto.com Arena. And this has now pushed Los Angeles up to 9th place in the Western Conference standings. D'Angelo Russell played a big role in this one as he scored most of the points for the Lakers, 34 points and 8 assists in just 34 minutes of play. Meanwhile, LeBron James turned in another strong performance with 28 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. And LeBron and Russell together scored the first 19 points for Los Angeles in the 4th quarter. This also now puts them in the highest position they have so far over the past few weeks, in 9th spot in the West. Meanwhile, Anthony Davis notched a double-double with 14 points and 14 rebounds. The Lakers' lead was recorded from 47 out of their 86 attempts, putting them at a 54.7% accuracy rate. They also managed to take the lead with 13 three-point shots, most of them scored by Russell, followed by Austin Reeves and LeBron James, who put in 3 three-pointers each.
Now you see it, now you know. Henderson.
All right, that last sports update brings us to the end of our sports recap. We have one more break to take here on the program, but stick around. We're going to wrap up the show with some entertainment news. Stay tuned.
The beauty and the excitement of being there.
Indescribable to lose such an iconic, historical, and magnificent.
Let's take a look around, shall we? Come on in. We found them.
Where people come and go.
A cup of tea, a perfect way to end your day. Come see the beauty only on See Indonesia.
Fisik saya mungkin waktu itu memang lemah, tapi bagi saya fisik itu hanya seberapa persen dari kemampuan kita. Yang penting adalah ide. Di anak-anak muda jangan pernah putus asa.
Hey there, buddies! Welcome back to another episode of Buddy Talk.
Enggak, dia hostnya, kita co-hostnya.
It's better to be overdressed than underdressed. That's actually a good hack, because I used to live in Canada. That was our trick. Point to Manado on this map. I'm horrible. I told you I'm bad.
Dikira dengan banyaknya informasi itu kan jadi makin gampang gitu nulisnya.
Iya.
Tapi ternyata susah banget.
All right, guys, let's get into our first update for today.
Meanwhile, a plume of smoke was seen billowing in the distance from Rafah in the Gaza Strip on Saturday, marking the 11th week of humanitarian crisis in Palestine.
Mount Anak Krakatau continues to erupt, spewing volcanic materials up to 300 meters high.
Sri Mulyani Indrawati said that Indonesia has minimized taking debt to meet the needs of the 2023 state budget until the end of the year.
Their existence is now being critically endangered.
Dia memiliki ekor yang sangat panjang, jauh lebih panjang daripada badannya sendiri.
Tekniknya dia itu bergelombol, menggunakan punggung temannya untuk naik.
Sebenarnya konservasi burung hantu di sini latar belakangnya jelas asas manfaat. Jadi kita pengen melestarikan burung, melestarikan satwa, tapi juga otomatis dampaknya ke masyarakat yang khususnya sekarang kalau di sini kan petani.
Oh, I love this atmosphere. Woo! Heading to Gili Trawangan. And this special episode, I already prepared myself for an adventure on the island, which in the top of the list to visit. And this is the travel note because life is dope.
All right, everyone, we're in the last leg of our show. Welcome back to the C Morning Show. It's time for some entertainment with this one you haven't heard before. The lead single from Ariana Grande's 7th album called Yes and tops the Billboard Global 200.
Yes and enters the Billboard Global 200 with 94.4 million streams after it was released on January 12th. 67,000 copies have been sold worldwide through January 18 and seating Jack Harlow's Lovin' on Me after 2 weeks at the top of the Global 200.
And at the same time, the lead single of Grande's 7th album, entitled Eternal Sunshine, also sits on the top of the Billboard Global charts, excluding the U.S., with 68 million streams and 26,000 copies sold outside of the U.S. from January the 12th through the 18th. The single topples Tate McRae's Greedy, which topped the list for 3 weeks. And this is the best time of the year for those who follow the Oscars and like to guess who may potentially win the coveted trophies this year.
And it's fun to predict who may win the Oscars, but there's often little to no room for a debate. And here's our See Today prediction.
Build a town, build it fast. Oppenheimer is holding firm to its presumed front-runner status following its high-profile wins at the Golden Globes and Critics' Choice Awards. Although it still has a road to travel to a win, a nomination is assured.
Thing that ever happened in the history of the world. You're the great improviser, but this you can't do in your head.
Are we saying there's a chance that when we push that button, we destroy the world?
I'm actually not sure.
Same goes for its summer box office twin Barbie and Killers of the Flower Moon, both of which have had strong showings with every imaginable precursor.
Their time is over.
It is the goal of all to progress.
Meanwhile, Poor Things and The Color Purple got a major boost from its SAG Ensemble nomination.
Oh, Miss Celia, you look good.
You just earned yourself a detention, sir. Being here with you is already one big detention.
From there, we have some strong contenders with a few caveats. The Holdovers has been warmly received all season, and star Davine Joy Randolph is streamrolling the supporting actress category.
And I'll stay out of yours.
Let me sleep.
Now, most of the kids dislike you, pretty much hate you. Teachers too. You know that, right?
I find the world a bitter and complicated place, and it seems to feel the same way about me. I think you and I have this in common.
That music, it keeps me glued to life.
Maestro has been driven more by buzz for its lead performances than by director Bradley Cooper's achievements. However, a film this gorgeously mounted and moving out to get a Best Picture inclusion too.
And if nothing sings in you, and you can't make music.
Makes me feel like I can't
좋다.
live without you.
Meanwhile, Past Lives has been steady as the season's heartfelt indie that could, with that Producers Guild nomination, proving it has the attention of a wide swath of the industry.
만약에 네가 한국을 떠나지 않았다면 내가 널 찾았을까? 우리가 사귀었을까? 헤어졌을까? 부부가 됐을까? 아이들을 가졌을까?
너는 나를 왜 찾았어?
한 번 더 보고 싶었어.
You complain about the life that you chose. You're not a victim. Not at all.
Be fair. I'm a man who's been cheated on. I can...
Palme d'Or winner Anatomy of a Fall has been a strong contender from its Cannes premiere, which makes it very likely to follow fellow Palme winners Triangle of Sadness and Parasite into this lineup.
I'm innocent, you know that, right?
I'm going to throw up one prediction in addition to all of those.
Yes.
Napoleon, perhaps?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
As well.
Yes, I saw that. It was great.
Love Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
There you go. Any additions from you guys?
Well, we've talked about it in
Yeah.
length already with Caroline earlier. I opted for Oppenheimer. I really love the movie, but as you mentioned, you just mentioned that Oscar tend to be more political, and Killing the Sunflower, if I'm not mistaken, the title?
Yeah, Killer of the Flower Moon.
Yeah. Could potentially also become the winner.
Yeah, but I like Maestros. I haven't watched it yet, but it was Bradley Cooper and Carey Mulligan.
Yes.
He's portraying a maestro, basically Leonard Bernstein. It's just very spectacular because he made this interview in the news outlet and saying that he's really, really trying to portray him, and usually actors and actresses are like that.
Yeah.
To the point like he learns how to conduct in musicality wise.
Wow.
He's really on there. So.
Legit.
Yes.
Oh, I heard he learned that for 6 years, if I'm not mistaken.
For this movie, right?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And some Martin Scorsese movie again.
There you go. All right, there you go. We'll find out soon enough anyway who will be nominated for the Oscars. But in the meantime, we got to go, guys. Coming up on 9 o'clock. Thank you for joining us for the past 3 hours. Been a great episode here on the C Morning Show. And always make sure that you're following us on our socials on Instagram, X, and YouTube at C Today News.
All right, definitely want to thank our team for the viral news of the day today. It was a good one, by the way, guys. Kudos, good job. And also, you can enjoy See Today News now in Australia, Foxtel's Flash app, or in Macau Cable TV Channel 84. And if you're in the Philippines, you can also join us and watch the Converge version, Channel 58, and in Singtel Singapore, Channel 15, and StarHub, Channel 720.
And for those Telkomsel users, you can also watch See Today on the Maxstream app and my Telkomsel app. Don't forget to also tune in again tomorrow, same time, same channel. And be sure to also catch our afternoon show every day at 5 p.m. I'm Rashami.
And I'm Caroline Surahmat.
And I'm Paul Palelli. And we'd like to sign off by saying,
See Indonesia, see the world, see today.
Have a great one.
Hi, I'm Raihan, and I'm here in my private corner, and welcome to Satisfactory. Cook healthy, cook happy. Today we're gonna make one pot chajun fettuccine alfredo. The ingredients is very simple. We have chicken breast, sausage, oregano, parmesan cheese, and then a paprika powder, cayenne powder, and garlic powder. For the fettuccine, we have here some fettuccine and then some onion, paprika, tomatoes, parsley, and for alfredo, of course, we need some milk, garlic, and salt. First thing we're gonna do is we prepare the chicken. We're gonna dry up the chicken first. So when we seasoning, the all seasoning will be absorbed with the chicken, so the chicken must be dry. Because we're gonna make a main course, so we need a protein. Okay? If you don't want to use chicken, you can use also meat or some shrimp, seafood, or anything else, or just some sausage is really good. Okay? After I'm done, and then I cut half the chicken breast.